Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I got a channel update and also a video reacting to your retail comments. I wanted to say the type of video that we're making today, it's a very unique video. I've never done a video like this before. So basically the background, I have made two videos in the past, and I made one about a year ago where I was talking about my horrible retail experiences. That video got like over 200,000 views. People really liked it when I talked about like retail and just my scumbag boss. And then I made a video a couple months back where I talked about night shifts when I would work at night, unloading the truck in retail and the horror stories dealing with the company and, scummy managers and supervisors. And you guys have really liked those videos, and I've seen like a lot of comments, people saying, can you make more videos talking about retail? And I have pretty much covered like 95% of my retail stories in video, so there really isn't anything left for me to cover. And so I was thinking about, what kind of video can I make next about this? And I was asking you guys during streams, and you guys during streams, you told me that why don't you make a video where you react to comments of people talking about retail. So I made a post about 2 weeks ago. Here's the post up on the screen, and the post I was basically asking you guys, my viewers, to tell me any crazy horror retail fast food stories that you got. It doesn't necessarily have to be retail. It can be anything in the food industry as well, or dealing with a scumbag boss, and I'll react to it. And so the reception I was seeing was pretty positive. And if you enjoy videos like this, if you like me doing videos like this, do drop a like, because it does let me know that you guys like content like this and want to see more content like this. I don't want to milk content like this. I'm not typically a React channel, but a lot of people have requested a video like this. If this video gets popular, if people really like this video, then I will make future videos where I'll react to stuff just like this again, but I'll only do this like once a month if I do videos like this, because I don't want to milk this every week. I don't want like to be constantly every week. So I'll do it like once a month if you guys really like videos like this. But also make sure you leave comments in those posts, because there is a chance that I'll read your comment. In this video, I'm reading over 30 stories, so there's 30 random comments, and I've chosen a lot of different comments. And so I've chosen comments from also other countries, my country, America. There's some comments from Canada, I believe in there, from the UK, Australia, and also from India. So I tried to choose as many comments as I could on the video. But also, other thing moving on here, just the channel update. These are videos basically I do like once a month, in which I talk about future plans of my channel, and thanking everybody who supported me through super chat, super thanks, channel memberships, and Patreon. And I would also just like to start that off right here. I would like to thank my moderators. Thank you guys for helping me out with this. Thank you guys for helping me on my streams, because my moderators, I owe you guys a lot, especially in the streams. There's a lot of people on the streams, and sometimes there's just a lot of comments. So I do want to give a special thanks there to my moderators for helping me out. And I also want to thank all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys for supporting me through Patreon. I really appreciate it. Your donations and support help me out greatly. Thank you also to my channel members. And also, I also wanted to thank everybody who super thanked me, and also everybody who super chats, which I'll have up on the screen here. Also, another thing I wanted to say about the playthroughs. I am doing a Black Ops 1 playthrough, Ace Attorney Investigations, and Yakuza 0. And about it is, Yakuza 0 only has one part left. I just have to complete Kiryu's final sub-stories, and then I'll defeat Kiryu's final boss. And I'll also do a 100% Yakuza stream. I just don't know when I'll do that, but I'll announce it when I'm going to be doing it a few days in advance, because I know people want me to go for 100% completion. As for the Black Ops 1 playthrough, I'll try to have it up every single day. I know I took like a 2-day break, but it's because that playthrough is a little bit harder to edit than the other playthroughs, and the reason for that is because as I'm going through the playthrough, I'm also discussing history. So I'm discussing like the Cold War history and like relating it to the events of the game and how accurate the game is and stuff like that. So those videos take a little bit of time to edit. So just be patient on that, please. And Ace Attorney Investigations, I'll try to have a part up of that every day. I know you guys really do enjoy that series. And as for lore videos, because I know people are going to ask me about the lore videos, I am making a lore video. The first one that I'm working on right now is a lore video on Marcelo. So Marcelo in Max Payne 3. So I've completed Max Payne 3 like 2-3 weeks ago. And in Max Payne 3, there's actually, if you pay attention to cutscenes, there's actually small little things that you might not notice about Marcelo. Like, Marcelo was actually hiding something major early in the game, and I'll have a lore video basically explaining what I mean by that. And also, I wanted to make a lore video on Mercenaries, which I actually just finished recently. And about Mercenaries, I'm going to do a video where I explore the map in Mercenaries, because it's an open world game set in North Korea, and I'll go to the different locations in the game, and I'll basically explain how accurate it is to the real North Korea, because the developers, when they developed Mercenaries, they did a lot of research into the geography and the landscape and the buildings in North Korea, and so almost a huge chunk of the landmarks in the game are based on real-life North Korean landmarks, and I'll be explaining the history behind that as I go through that, but that video will take probably later in March, near the end of March when I put that out. But that is pretty much it for me, just explaining what, we're doing going forward, with this channel. Thank you guys again for the support, and thank you again everybody who has donated to me. You guys helped me out a lot. Like recently, my Black Ops 1 video, unfortunately, my Black Ops 1 video had been demonetized by stupid UMG Universal Music Group. They demonetized it on the Cuban bar music that was at the start, and I didn't want to, mute the audio because it would ruin the cutscene, because Woods is talking during the cutscene too, so it was, I'll just keep the copyright claim. But you guys, when you donate to me, you guys have helped me out tremendously, with that, and I want to give a special thanks to you guys for that. Thank you so much. But anyways, here, let's move on to the video and me reacting to these stories. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to be reacting to these stories. I got like 30 different comments that I'm going to be reacting to on this. And again, if you guys like videos like this, do drop a like. Let me know if you want stuff like this, and I'll make videos like this in the future. But anyways, let's start reading these stories here. So the first story we got right here is from Felix Slayer 1583. I once got called a spoiled brat for showing up with my father's expensive car for a job interview, and a manager was asking and talking a lot about how I am not fit for it just because I might steal someone's job while I already living up well. Now my financial situation is not what he thinks, and I don't have a car to show up with That's why I borrowed my father's car at the time. And if I was spoiled, then I won't be showing up to the interview at all. That's a place that I will never go to again. Oh man. I'm sorry that you went through that crap, Felix. And I will also say about this, Felix, is chances are they're probably never going to hire you. They weren't going to hire anyone. And the reason for that is because I didn't find out about this until really when I was probably in my later 20s, when I found out about this. But have you ever noticed how there's a lot of like help wanted signs in a lot of places, and yet you go and apply, and even if you meet the credentials, they don't hire you. And those help wanted signs remain for months and months and months. They remain for there. The reason for that, it's a scam. A lot of companies, what they will do is they will put up help wanted signs just so they get tax benefits. I believe there's specific federal tax benefit and state tax benefits they get. So they'll basically say, oh, we're in the process of hiring right now, and because of that, they get away with actually paying lower taxes. They're not actually hiring anyone, but the reason they put up those for now hiring signs is just so that they get those tax benefits specifically. It's a scam that a lot of companies have done, and the reason they do the interviews is so that they have some proof. So if the government comes to them and says, you have these, help wanted signs, but you haven't been, hiring anyone whatsoever. And it's like, no, we have interviews here. We've done interviews. So that's the thing is, make sure to keep that in mind, that not every single place that says that, now hiring, help wanted is necessarily going to hire they might just be doing it as a scam for tax benefits. But I'm sorry that you went through that, Felix. And, it's none of their business what car you're driving. Like, you could pull up in a Lamborghini, and it's none of their business, what car you're driving. You're there for the job interview. You're there to you met the qualifications. You're there. You're ready. And so, like you said, is that if you were spoiled, you wouldn't be going to the job interview in the first place. But, you tried to go to the job interview, and instead they treated you like crap. My first job interview, my buddy, he worked at a burger restaurant, and he got me a job interview for being a potential cashier at the burger restaurant. So this was like right after high school. It was like 1920s, like a year after high school. So like around there. And what happened is, I was trying to apply to the job. I walked into the job, and the lady, she met me, I remember she met me, didn't even meet me at the place. She met me actually at a hotel. And I came there, I dressed up fancy, I dressed up in a suit, tie. I even put on, fancy shoes to meet her. And I sat down for the job interview for like half an hour. She asking me about my qualifications, even though I've already pretty much filled that out in the application, a bunch of other stuff. And she told me, oh, we'll get back to you if we're interested. And I told her, you'll call me, regardless if you hire me or not, you'll let me know if I got the job or not. And she's like, yeah, yeah, we'll let you know if you got the job or you didn't get the job. I never heard back from her. She never contacted me. She never called me. And the worst part about this is she actually went to my friend like a week later and said to him, do you have anybody that has a little bit more job experience? So they were never going to hire me in the first place. And the moment that basically that I told her that I never had a job before in the interview, I was honest, I wasn't lying. I was right after high school, so I don't know what she expected, but instead she decided to trash talk me behind my back and actually say that to my friend that you have anybody without with any more with a little bit more job experience. So what was the point of even hiring me? So I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing that as well. But basically, just to sum it up here, Felix, is you did nothing wrong. These companies, they will basically do that crap. They will put up those, help wanted signs, and they won't even be hiring anyone. And they see you, pull up in, your father's car, which was probably a nice car. They get jealous, they get pissed. It's you probably dodged a bullet. You shouldn't have. It's good you even didn't even work there. That company was probably extremely toxic as hell, especially the management. Next one here we got from Video Games Madness 1582. When I worked at Family Dollar, I was supposed to be making $12 an hour because that was the minimum wage and what was offered as a cashier. I only got paid 10, and since I couldn't access my pay stub, I didn't know I was getting robbed till 4 months into the job. Later on, while working a night shift, a manager, a middle-aged woman, hit me in front of a customer. I was just doing a return as the customer requested and was hit for it. What? My boss stood up for the that manager. The worst and one of the most scummiest things is when my dad died, I had to take time off, which is well and do good. After I got back to work, I was only scheduled for 1 day a week, so I told my boss I need more days because I had to help cover cremation costs and bills. 48 hours later, I was fired. Oh my god. Oh man, I'm sorry, man, and I'm sorry for your loss. And what I will say about this video game madness is I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know how long ago this was, but you could potentially sue for retaliation. So the thing is that in America, generally, out of like I think it's like 48 out of 50 states, it's an at-will state where they can fire you for pretty much any reason that they want, but they cannot retaliate against you. And what I mean by retaliate is that if you like, for example, if you, for example, talk to HR about something and then you get fired, or you got something going on, personally, you talk to the manager and they fire you, that might be grounds for suing. Like, I don't know your state's laws, so I don't know exactly what this is, if you have a case or not. But if this didn't happen too long ago, I would talk to a lawyer and just see what the lawyer says. Just explain that to them, that you try to talk to your boss about getting more hours because you needed to help your pay your father's cremation costs and bills, and then they fired you right after that. So that might actually be a form of retaliation. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but it might be a case that a lawyer might take. And also the other thing about you saying when you're working $12 an hour and they only paid you 10, I can relate to this. Because what a lot of companies will do to scam their workers is they actually won't pay you the correct hours. So your check might say that you're getting paid like the minimum wage or however else, but what might happen is you might be like a few hours short every week. And the thing is, though, one of the best advices that my father gave me. My father gave me really good advice on this, and I should have listened to my father. I didn't listen to my father, and it was a massive mistake. But my father basically told me that whenever you get to get your check, to always look at it, because he said to me that these companies, that my company, because my father, he worked at a box factory, he said that they were always short, like every month they were short several hours, and he said they never gave me more money than I worked, they never gave me extra hours that I never worked, but it was always short. And I didn't check that stuff because that was when my dad was working. He worked up until what it was like the mid 2000s. That's pretty much when he stopped working. He retired at that point. But I should have started checking my checks, and I actually found out from one of my coworkers because I went to one of my coworkers' weddings, And when I was at my coworker's wedding, I actually met another one of my coworkers who was invited there, and she actually told me that the boss had actually scammed her for years, and he had not paid her the correct hours. And my other coworker said that as well. And so if I had known that, I would have been checking my checks. I should have taken a calculator and taken my checks and calculated. I probably got scammed. I probably did. I don't know by how much, but I probably got scammed. But that is one of the worst things that your manager can do something from you, is that they literally, you work hard for them. You know, you bust your ass for these people, and they're still manipulating your check into getting basically free labor. It's one of those scummiest. And I think, how can these bosses sleep at night, doing stuff like this? And you didn't do anything wrong. Video games madness is, you were young, you were working at this job. You didn't know that they were gonna be pulling crap like this, and I didn't expect stuff like this happening to me too. So I'm sorry about I'm sorry about what you went through, and my condolences, and I'm sorry about your loss. But again, if this didn't happen to not that long ago, I would talk to a lawyer, explain the case, just call them up on the phone. You don't necessarily have to go to meet them, and just tell them, I told them I need more money for my father's cremation, and they had fired me. A lawyer might look at it as a form of retaliation, and maybe you'll have a case. I'm not sure, but I would talk to a lawyer about that. But again, my condolences, and I'm sorry about what you went through, dude. This is from my friend WRV here. He's in India. This happened almost 2.5 years ago. So my grandparents own a small retail shop. I used to be open 24/7, and I was visiting my grandparents. And as I always have had trouble sleeping at night, I thought I should help my grandparents on their store at night. There are only 2 employees in the store. And when I went in, I took the cash counter. As one of the employees was arranging the store, and other hadn't shown up. By the way, the other employee was the manager, and around 3 a.m., a guy came to the store with a huge list that had over 60 items, at least, and he handed over the list to me. And I explained to him that in this store, you need to collect the items you want by yourself. And he started screaming at me. And suddenly, the other guy, who was the manager, came at 3 a.m., listened to the guy, and started to scream at me, saying why the hell I didn't find the items for him. I tried to explain that he didn't want me to find a couple of items. He wanted me to literally pick all the items he wants. Then the manager said, "So what?" And he started to say how I'm ungrateful, and that he would fire me, and I won't be able to get another job. He tried to force me to collect items for that guy, and both the customer and the manager were screaming at me. I got mad and left the store and went back home. The manager didn't know that I was the grandson of the owner of the place that I was the owner of the place the next morning. Yeah, I was about to ask that. I was about to ask whether the manager knew that you were the owner's grandson. I told my grandfather about this. He called that manager and had a talk with him on how to treat employees, and that employees are also important as customers. The manager wasn't fired back then, but like 6 months ago, my grandparents changed stores timing, and now it's only open during the day, so that manager got fired. But the other employee wasn't, as he had worked at the store for many years and wasn't toxic to anyone. Well, yeah, that is right there. The manager had gotten fired. You said 6 months later, but that is that's insane. He asked you to get 60 items, and around 3 a.m. So somebody comes in at 3 a.m. and expects you to collect over 60 items. And also, I will also say this, is that you didn't, you also did the right thing by walking out and not using your grandfather's name, at least not right away. Because a lot of other people, they would have started bragging about their grandfather being the owner, but you did the right thing, just walking out, not even, saying anything to him, and then just telling your grandfather personally about it, because it would have just probably created more of a scene right there. But that's toxic. That is extremely toxic. And the thing is, though, is that when we at my store, we had a curbside pickup option, and that was developed basically like, how long? Maybe like 4 or 5 years into me working there. I worked in retail for 6 years. So about like 1 year before I quit is when the curbside thing started, being developed. And customers would actually come in and they would expect us to do the shopping right then and there. So like they didn't even place a curbside order, and they would just tell us, "Oh, I want this, 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 and collect this for me." And you're not their personal shop assistant. Yes, you're there to help them. You can help them find the items in the store and like check the back, but you're not there to walk around and pick stuff up for them. And especially if your store does not offer like curbside services, is you have literally no obligation to do something like that. But I've heard horror stories where and another store where I've talked to employees, because we've had employees that have actually come to our store to work from the same company when we were basically short staffed, so they covered some shifts. And I've heard stories from other people who have basically said that customers have come in, usually are rich people. They come in and they basically expect they expect the employee to do all the shopping for them. They expect them to go around. It's like, no, you're not their servant. You're not their personal assistant. People should be able to go and people should be able to go and do their shopping on their own. But yeah, and also the thing about this is at 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's gonna be exhausted, and even if you sleep in the daytime, you're still gonna be exhausted at night. That's just even employees that sleep in the daytime, they're still gonna be somewhat tired at night. So somebody coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning and expecting you to do 60 items, and also the thing is what it could have also been WRV is it could have also been a form of theft, because there are basically scams where people will go into a store, and what they will do, they'll go into teams of two, and one guy will basically distract an employee and be like, oh, I need help with this, like some ridiculous order. And in the meantime, the second guy comes in the store, starts shoplifting while that employee's not looking. So this actually might have been a scam. So this guy might have had a partner, and somebody else might have been coming in the store, and he basically just wanted you. And because 3 o'clock in the morning, there's going to be really no witnesses. The store is pretty much going to be empty, so other customers aren't going to necessarily see you, stealing. So that basically might have been that. He might have been trying to steal from the store and been trying to distract you. Uh, and this one here, this one is from Pep Gin 23. I worked at a grocery store supermarket from 2018 until 2020. I never really had horror stories, but I have a few bizarre ones. One shift I was doing routine work when I suddenly saw a man walking around taking pictures, and I thought he also made one of me, which I didn't like at the time. So I called the manager over, and he went looking. I was told to leave, but I kind of went looking and saw him and wanted to confront him. My manager just told me to leave it. Turned out it was the dad of some other kid who had just started working there, and he just took a few photos to show the family, but he was told to never do it again. And that's extremely embarrassing too. And even if the and some random guy that's walking around the store taking pictures, and even if he's related to the person, I would not want something like that. I'd get pissed if I had a family member of mine that walked in the store and started taking pictures of me while in retail, and it's like, I'm gonna share this on Facebook. I'd get pissed. I would not want that shared at all. I never personally had to deal with shoplifter, but I saw it a few times when we had caught one and took him to the back. It was mainly just kids or idiots stealing things like candy, snacks, and energy drinks. One time, however, I just come in and my manager was dragging some guy to the back. Oh, dragging him to the back. That actually, that could be a grounds for a lawsuit, because even if the person is stealing, I don't think that you can do something like that. You could probably stop them and restrain them, but like dragging them to the back, I don't know if that's necessarily legal. First thing I noticed is he wasn't wearing shoes, and he had a strange smell coming off him. Turned out it was a homeless junkie who was wanted by police in a neighboring city for assault and theft. He also had drugs on him when the officers took him. And the thing about this is drug addicts are actually some of the people that are the most likely to commit crimes, especially stealing. And the reason that drug addicts steal so much is because they want to basically steal stuff to sell it to basically pay for their drug habits. They're so obsessed with the drug. When somebody's addicted to drugs, the only thing they're going to think about is the drug. They're only going to think about getting high. They're not going to think about anything else. They're not going to think about breaking the law, hurting other people. All they're basically going to think about is they're going to think they want dope. That's it. I wasn't on shift for this one, but it sounded quite horrific. Basically, in the afternoon, there was a very old guy doing groceries with his wife, but at one, he slipped while searching the dairy counter, and he hit the side of his head on the metal shelf. Blood oozed out immediately, and he lost consciousness. Employees and customers stood horrified as large puddles of blood spilled around. Luckily, some people went to help and kept pressure on the wound. An ambulance came quickly, and they got him to the hospital. The guy recovered, and we later got a thank you card from his family. Ooh. That's I've never seen an injury that horrific, but I've seen a customer actually trip once, and she tripped on a tote that was in an aisle. And the thing is, though, is that that actually potentially could be grounds for suing. I'm not necessarily saying your store. I'm saying at my store. At my store, when she tripped on a tote, there was like a tote like right around the corner, and I guess if you were if you were completely paying attention, you would see the tote. But it was also, you could also make the argument that it was easy to miss. But we never had a lawsuit from them. But it's also good that that old guy, that he made a recovery, and they also sent you a thank you card. This one is the craziest by far. And the first time I encountered a Karen, a male Karen to be precise. A Karen is basically somebody who will come into a store and they will constantly keep complaining about dumb things. And oftentimes they want free stuff or deals. This was at the start of the pandemic, at around April. We had we had all already taken safety measures and such, had sanitation, limited customers, and keeping distance. Anyway, one day I'm filling up the wine shelves, and after I was done with one box, I was turning around whilst looking at the other wines. I still had to do and such, and when I accidentally bumped into some older guy, it was totally my fault as I didn't look ahead, so I gently said, "My apologies, sir." But then he says, "Yeah, but I know you're not sorry. You don't care, you just want to infect me." What? Why would somebody want to get somebody else sick? Then he just goes on how everyone in his family and friends and family all got sick, and even his children and such had to go to the hospital, and everyone is dying. He then calls me an asshole and a reckless piece of shit. Oh my god. And I just stand there baffled. Afterwards, he walks off, but then when turn again to look at him, he goes to the cash register, and first of all, he skips the queue and goes to unleash his anger onto some random woman in the line, and then at the cashiers. And I was like, what the F is wrong with you? Did I do something? Even worse, shortly after the manager comes to me and asks if I had seen that. I tell the story, and he tells me that the guy had been yelling at everyone in the store, staff and customers. He even intimidated and nearly reduced a girl to tears. Oh my god. Simply put, I was stunned. Luckily, all the managers knew what they were up against, and while I can't remember the rest exactly, I had heard they actually talked to him another time and told him to shut it and cool down first, or they would kick him out of the store. I never had bad experiences at my job, but I have also, but I have probably more stories of other jobs I had, but those weren't really retail, so perhaps for another time. Oh my god. And I will also say this, and I don't want to get anybody fired from retail, so I don't know necessarily you would take my advice on this, but literally the last month that I was working in retail, because I knew that I was going to quit. I knew I was going to be out of there within a month. I didn't tell my boss yet that I was quitting, but I knew that within a month I was gone. I was just so sick of it, and the thing that basically pushed me to the breaking point of quitting retail, it wasn't even the customers. The customers were, part of the reason, but it was also the fact that the company would never have my back. So like, management would not have my back if somebody complained. Management would not be there to back me up, and on top of that is I asked for a raise. I asked for a $1 raise, which I thought was reasonable. And I only got, I think it was like a 25 cent raise, which at that point, it was like, what, I'm going to make an extra quarter an hour? No. I thought that $1 an hour was fair after, like, giving 6 years of my life to this company. But that was basically my breaking point. And what happened was, when customers were nasty to me, like this guy, if I had encountered this guy, what I basically would have said to him is I would have said to him, "Sir, I apologize. I'm trying to help you. If you continue being rude to me, I'm not going to help you at all." And I would just walk away from them. And that's what would happen is if customers, gave me an attitude, if they, started talking crap to me, I would just walk away from them if I was in the aisle. I haven't encountered really a rude customer at the cash register that I did this to, only really in the aisles. But basically, the customers who constantly complain, the Karens, when you basically say, "I'm not helping you, go and find somebody else," do you know what they do? They are in complete shock. It's like silence. It's almost the exact same reaction. It's blah, 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 blah from these people. But the moment that you actually step away, the moment that you walk away, they're in silence. And the reason for that is because they're absolutely shocked. They expect you to sit there and take their verbal abuse. And that's it, is I would just walk away. I would just basically be like, "Nope, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it." And I would just say, have somebody else help you. And I haven't had the manager confront me on this, but if the manager confronted me on this, I would have told the manager, I literally told him to stop being rude to me and I'll help him, but he didn't stop being rude, so I have no reason to keep helping him. And that's ultimately it. So again, I don't recommend everybody do this, because I don't want to get you fired. I don't know how your job would react to you doing this, but that's basically what I did. and I didn't care because I only had 1 month of working, but it was satisfying. It was satisfying seeing the reaction of these people, seeing the reaction of these Karens online. But I'm sorry that you dealt with that. One of my mom's coworker about the COVID thing, saying, "Oh, you want to infect me?" One of my mom's coworkers. My mom was a cleaner in Manhattan, and one of her coworkers actually lives in the same town as her. And what they would do is they would constantly carpool. So they would carpool together, like 1 month my mom would drive, the other month the other person would drive to save money on gas. And what happened was, my in the COVID when the COVID pandemic started, my mom had contracted COVID, and she didn't know it. She didn't know that she had COVID. She didn't show any symptoms or anything like that. She just did a test, and she had COVID, but she wasn't like coughing or sneezing or anything like that. She just had it. And what happened is that coworker of mine, my mom's, when she actually found out about that, she got really pissed and she just blew my mom's, phone up with messages saying, oh, you're a horrible person. How could you go to work when you're sick? I could have gotten sick from you, and my granddaughter could have gotten sick from me. You could have gotten the entire family sick. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And my mom was like, what the hell, seriously? Because my mom had no idea that she was sick. My mom was doing COVID tests like every week. Like every week she would do a COVID test. She was constantly doing that, and then she eventually got the vaccine. So my mom was trying. It wasn't like it wasn't like she was being reckless or anything. She didn't know that she was sick, and her coworker made such a big deal out of that. And what happened was, then like my mom stopped driving with her, and then like 2 months later, that coworker texted her and it's like, "Hey, you want to carpool this month?" And my mom's like, "Nope, nope, I don't want to talk to you." And that was just basically it. So like they literally, she talked so much crap to my mom, and then like 2 months later, she wanted to carpool again, but my mom said, "No, not again at this point." So, unfortunately, some people are just like that. I'm sorry about what you went through. Your name is Pepjin. Thank you for the comment, dude. Uh, Next comment is from Gemini. Gemini 4704 had a kid who just turned 21 at the liquor store. Drunk, take a bottle of Corona out of his pants with the lime still in it. Took a swig from it and tried to pay for a $1 lighter $100 bill. Oh my god. And some people are alcoholics before they even turn 21. That's this disgusting. Gemini, and I've had kids. I've told this in my retail video, but I've had kids who come into the store late at night with fake IDs, and they try to buy massive cases of alcohol. And here's the scary thing: a lot of people don't know strict liability laws. In an American court of law, in order to prove that somebody is guilty, you typically need to prove both mens rea and actus reus. Mens rea is the guilty state of mind. It means you have to prove that the person had a guilty state when they were committing the crime. And the actus reus is the guilty act itself. But strict liability crime is proving the guilty act about the guilty state of mind. So if somebody breaks the law without realizing that they're breaking the law. And here's the scary thing. In a lot of states, if you're a cashier and somebody comes in with alcohol and they give you a fake ID, even if the ID looks real, and you punch in the birth year and you sell them alcohol and they're underage and you had no idea they were underage because the fake ID, you could get arrested for that. I know people are gonna be like, what? Yep, that is actually a true thing. So that's actually a really scary fake. People using fake IDs. But about this kid who just turned 21, I have actually a funny story about this. There was actually a guy who came into the store, like kid, probably in his early 20s, and what happened is he came in at like 9 p.m., like 1 hour before the store closed, because the store typically would close at 10 p.m. And what happened is this kid was buying 2 Arizona iced teas, and I remember he put the 2 cans on the counter, and he looked like he was zoning out all over the place like this, like all over. I don't know what he was on. I don't know if it was marijuana or something else, or some kind of drug that he was on. And what ended up happening is he paid for the 2 Arizonas, and I gave him the change, and then afterwards he said thank you, and took the receipt and just left. And he left the 2 Arizonas on the counter, and I just left him to the side of my register, and he comes in like 5 minutes later. I was like, oh, thank you for holding this for me. I'm so high right now. Like, he literally said that to me. So he bought a bunch of Arizonas and didn't even remember that he was supposed to take them. He literally took his change and left without them. Oh man. Next comment is from Double J. One simple story I have is working in the food court in the shopping mall. I worked in a halal fast casual restaurant. The Chick-fil-A was right next to us. Every time I worked in the restaurant, people would Every time I worked in the restaurant, people who did not buy food from our store, especially people with Chick-fil-A bags, walked straight to our spot just to ask for forks, spoons, napkins, cups of water, and plastic bags. They just got stuff from Chick-fil-A, and we see it right in front of us. They don't ask them, but they ask us. It got to the point my manager instructed us to tell people if they don't have a receipt from our store, we can't give them anything. Ugh, and that's disgusting. Is uh the people, so if I'm reading this correctly, people would walk into the neighboring competitive restaurant next door to you, the Chick-fil-A, and they would request forks, spoons, napkins, cups of water, and plastic bags. And they just got stuff from Chick-fil-A, and we see it right in front of us. They were taking advantage of you. And here's the thing is, by law, most places have to give you a water cup. At least that's what I think it is, because water is typically free at restaurants when you go to them. But here's the thing is, you are not allowed to fill that water cup up with anything besides water. Like, you cannot fill the water cup up with a soda. Kids actually would do this a lot of times. I saw kids in high school do this, where they would actually ask for a water cup, and what they would do is then they would fill it up with soda. Nobody at the staff stopped them, but technically that's illegal. The water cup is supposed to be just for water, but those people they probably at your restaurant, if you had like one of those soda stands, they probably were stealing soda from you as well. That's probably what they were doing. And I can already see it. I can already see the reaction is you cut these customers off, and you basically tell them, oh, this is really bad customer service. How can you deny us, forks and spoons and stuff like that. But, I would be very direct if I was the manager, and I would tell them, you're not a customer. They would say it's bad. If they said it's bad customers, you're not a customer. You're not buying from us, so you're not getting forks, spoons, and napkins. We don't have to give you anything if you're not buying from us. And all they're basically going to do is they're just going to drain you of supplies. But, good for your manager. But did those customers complain when you told them show us a receipt? Because the customers probably were just expecting freebies constantly, and they were probably shocked when you asked for it. Next story is from Oplox. Oh dear, some guy called in a bomb threat once, only for it to be a weirdo across the street. He got arrested after trying to fight random customers outside. What? What the hell? What? Okay, I've never seen something like that. Not at least in retail. There was actually a student who actually called in a threat at at my college. I think it was a bomb threat because there was a ton of cops outside, but he basically called the police just so that the building would be evacuated, just so that he could get out of a test. Pretty much that. And he got caught. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he got arrested or if he got, expelled or what. That I don't know. That's just the only thing I heard at my school. But thank you, Zero Plox, for the story. Next one is from Aussie fan 00. I work at a restaurant pub in Australia. I don't got many horror stories there, but I have heard crazy ones, like fights happening or someone doing big bags of coke in the bathroom wanting to party, and the cops coming around a lot. One time having to talk to a family because someone stole their car. But I tell you, the scary experience I had with a customer. So I was working the restaurant one night on Australia Day. Australia Day is basically like their version of Independence Day. It's a very big holiday in Australia. Where lots of people love to celebrate, get drunk, and do foolish things. My shift ended at 8:30 p.m. I had to catch the bus back home, but as I was waiting, some dude got kicked out of my job who was raged and very drunk. This was a big guy with muscles. I was minding my own business, waiting for my bus. Then he spotted me wanting to fight me. I should clarify that I'm actually someone with autism who doesn't do well with stressful situations. He was like pushing me, wanting to fight me. I yelled to leave me alone. I don't wanted problems. The whole situation seemed like it was going to get physical until my luck, my bus came just a few minutes on time. So I hop on it, and the bus driver took me back to my area while the guy was still raging on. I was shaking a lot, even thinking that I maybe should have quit the night shift. But I'm still working there, and I'm more wary of my nights. But things have gotten better since we got a better security team and better people who run my work now. And I'm sorry you went through that experience. It's good that you got a security team that protects your bar. We had no security at my store. We had a security guard that was for the shopping plaza, but he wasn't technically for the store. But it was only one guy, and he would just sit in the car very far away from the store. He almost never came into the store. But there are idiotic customers that will basically uh, take out their anger on the employees. So whatever happens, they will blame the employee like they're blaming the company. They think that you, the employee, are the company. So if they have a problem with the company, if they have a problem with the business, they act like you are the main cause of their problems. But this guy basically showed why he should have gotten thrown out. Just his experience. I had a customer once confront me in the parking lot, and it was the scariest experience I've ever had. The guy actually came into the store once. He bought a pack of gum and he wanted cash back. And then he came back a second time and he said he wanted, singles because the laundromat would not accept big bills. And then he came back a third time just screaming, and he claimed I prank called him because he didn't have his store card, so I put in his phone number. I didn't prank call him. There on the register. I had better things to do. I'm not going to call somebody. And also, whenever I put somebody's phone number in, like literally a few minutes later, I just forget it. So I'm not even in the business of remembering his phone number, nor do I want to prank him. But he's like, I better not find out that you did it. And then what ends up happening is he waited until the store closed, and as I was actually going to my car, he confronted me in the parking lot. He was literally waiting until the store closed, and he just kept saying, "I better not find out you did it." And what happened was my supervisor, her husband, this really big Swedish guy, actually pulled up, and he basically just got in front of the guy, and so he was like twice this guy's size, and he basically told me like, "Patrick, just get in your car and go home." And I went home, and I owed him one for that. I don't know how that would have ended if he wasn't there, but I do thank that guy for it. But that was the scariest thing I had. The fact that and this guy, I tell you something, this guy is dangerous, and this guy, just like what I went through, Aussie fan, the fact that this guy is gonna confront you outside after your shift ends. This is a dangerous individual. This is somebody who's not gonna let things go. They're gonna constantly keep thinking about these things, and they're going to want to get back at somebody. They don't care who it is. So thankfully your bus arrived on time and you got out of that situation quickly. Next comment we got is Ricky G Media. I had several terrible experiences in my restaurant industry, though I have to admit one story at a time. Back in 2018, I worked my first job as a customer service representative for Domino's. One day, the management team told my coworkers there's an important visit from the company higher-ups, regional manager, store owner, photographer. What we did is work extra hard on our shift without delays nor mistakes. The store owner thanked us and left. I felt like I've accomplished something to impress him. Turns out, nobody had even been rewarded with a money bonus. Oh, man. Oh, man. And Ricky, I will tell you this. I know exactly how you feel. I was, when I used to work in retail, I was the absolute best at sales signs. Nobody beat me in sales signs. Nobody. I could do if I did not get disturbed that entire night, if I didn't get disturbed by customers or, my manager or my supervisor needed me for something, I could finish the entire store. Literally, thousands of sales signs. That's how quick I was with those sales signs in one night. And I remember one day, I was working a 2 to 10, a Saturday night, doing the sales signs. I did not take a break for 7 hours. I worked 7 hours on that floor straight. And I basically did all of the sales signs in one night, in 7 hours. That was my quickest record. Finished all the signs in the store in 7 hours. And I texted the manager. And the manager basically just said, "Good job, Pat." That was it. I did not get any kind of reward, nothing else like that. That's it. And the manager didn't even respond right away, too. I was pissed. I was annoyed by that. It was my fault that I didn't go on break for some time. I could have gone on break earlier, but I thought that if I worked above and beyond for the manager, that I would have some kind of reward, but I didn't. And I also had, the district manager, the district manager was the worst guy. The district manager would come into the store, he would meet us in the middle of the sales floor, and we would clean the store, we'd have the store ready for his inspection, and he would basically say, the store looks great, guys, you guys did an amazing job, keep it up. Then 1 hour later, he would send management an email, and the email was the most disgusting, vulgar crap ever. You guys don't know what the F you're doing, you better get your shit together, or you're getting effing fired, the store looks like garbage. And he would do this multiple times. He'd come in the store, right where all the customers are, he would tell us right in front of all the customers, the store looks great, you guys are doing amazing, and then 1 hour later, the nasty email would come in of him just cursing us out. And that's what I'll say is that don't go above and beyond for these people. Don't go above and beyond for that, for them. I'm not saying to be lazy or slack off at your job, but only do your job description. Because, management will say, "Oh, you're being lazy," But in reality, you have no obligation to do anything more than your job description. Your job description is specifically what your job description is, and you have no reason to go above and beyond for these people. And if you go above and beyond, all they're going to do is they're going to give you more work. They're not going to give you a promotion. They're not going to give you a raise, at least not in most cases. Next one is from Daniel. Reacting to retail stories could be a good thing you could do, Patrick. Anyway, I have a recent story from December 22nd, 2024. I work in retail in Denmark as a supervisor, and the time was exactly 22 or 10 p.m. at the early night. I went out from the storage room and into the shop, and I saw a 55-year-old male customer still shopping food. Oh, I know where this is going, the last-minute shopper. I went to a customer and said politely that we close now, and if he would please go straight to the cash register and pay for his groceries. He started to walk towards the cash register, but then he suddenly stops at the frost section for a peek for what he might eventually want to purchase. I was behind him with a safe pay box that I just emptied in the office, and I told him again if he could walk to the cash register. Then the male customer turns his head and gave a glaring look and said with an anger tone, I have heard you, all right? I was stunned of his reaction, because I have never had a customer talk to me like that. Usually they oblige to me and goes to the cash register without trouble, but this male customer is different. Oh, man. I had a customer once I told a customer once that the store is closing in 5 minutes, and you know what she said? She said, "You're not going to rush me." That's what she said. Excuse me, it's our store. Well, I don't own it, but the company does. And the store policy is we can kick you out when the store closes. And that's what these customers don't know, is that once a store is closed, you are trespassing. So once a store is past closing, that is actually breaking the law. You are trespassing. A lot of people don't know that, but that is. So if the store allows you to remain there after the store has closed, it's not technically trespassing because they're allowing you to still shop. But if you stay there after the store is closed and they tell you to leave and you are not leaving, that is actually trespassing, and you could get them arrested for that. So a lot of people don't know that, but that's what these stupid customers don't understand, because businesses are private property. They are open to the public, but the business reserves the right to actually kick anybody out and reserves the right to actually cite people for trespass if they refuse to leave. He was offended and felt that I rushed him, which I can understand he felt that. But I am not allowed to be alone in the shop after closing time, and my under 18 workers are not allowed to be in a shift after closing them. You did absolutely nothing wrong, Daniel. You did absolutely nothing wrong. I would have done the exact same thing. That guy was just a scumbag. You are, and also here's the thing is, that guy doesn't have a right to hold you up. You know, you want to go home. You know, it's 10 p.m., you're tired, you're working all day, you want to go home, you have a right to go home, you want to get something to eat and go to sleep. You don't want to be there all night because some idiot wants to keep shopping, so you didn't do anything wrong, Daniel. So he argued with me and went to the cash register and literally insults me in front of my coworkers by saying that I love power, and if I like men, and if I was his wife, since he felt that I was a little bit too close to him. What? Oh my god. I asked him to stop and told him to pay for his groceries. I went outside to close one of the 2 front gates. When he came out, we had eye contact, and he apologized for his behavior, and I apologized for rushing him. But I also explained to the customer about the work policy for my younger staffs, and he understood it. After he left, I felt that I did something wrong, but my district manager, which was my former manager, said the next day that I did nothing wrong. I'm generally surprised. I guess it might be that maybe management in your country is a bit different, but where I grew up, management in New York management was very strict, and they would not have your back at all. They would not. The management would not back you up. And so if I said to a customer we're closing, and the customer gave me an attitude and complained, management would really yell at me the next day. But it's good that management had your back, and it's good that that he apologized. At least the guy apologized, but that was still completely uncalled for, and it was just messed up. And the thing is, these customers, when they come into the store at the last minute, they will never think about the employees in the store. The only thing they're thinking about is themselves. The employees don't want to be there all night. They don't. And I had a customer that, came in 1 minute before closing. It was like around I think it was Mother's Day, and I felt like it was a rush of customers coming in, and I closed the door 1 minute before. A line of customers just comes to the door, and they say, "Let us in the store, let us in." I say, "No, we're closed." The idiot holds up the phone to me and says, "Oh, it's 9:59. You gotta let us in." And what happens is my supervisor says, "Let them in." I let them in, and they said they're not going to take long. They took like an extra 40 minutes to shop. My God. So, and I don't care if I'm getting paid. I don't want to be there all night because some moron wants to take his time shopping. When the store closes. And people need to learn to do their shopping before the store closes. But you handled yourself well, Daniel, and don't think you did anything wrong. You didn't. Uh, Next one is from Michael Toss 8204. I had a customer get pissed that I needed a debit card to do a return. Well, all dogs go to heaven, but their owners maybe not so much. And about this, at not every single store, retail store, lets you do returns without the card. Some companies have like advanced systems where they can just refund the money directly to the card, but other companies, they need the card itself. My store where I worked at, we had 1990s like machines, like actual registers from the 1990s, like IBM machines, like, you know, those old ones. And what happened is uh, whenever we told customers, you need to have your, you know, credit card for the return, you need to have this for the return, blah blah blah, they would get pissed. They would just get annoyed by that. And the thing about this is, I'm wondering, if you're doing a return to the store, right? And why would you not bring your credit card or your debit card to the store? If you're doing a return and you want the money back on that card, why would you not bring the card to the store? Like, the person's a complete, oh, I'm just going to leave this here at home, and I'm just going to go to the store and expect them to do it without the card. Complete idiots. But that's, that guy's a moron, Michael. Next story we got right here. Not really a retail place, but I work at a large Cisco warehouse as sanitation. When I switched to a day shift, I also got in a lumper position for a while. Unload trucks coming into the warehouse for extra money, although I wasn't trained properly to do more complex unloads. While lumping at the time, I noticed that some truckers that delivery goods to the warehouse usually get extremely impatient. According to the reviews we get here at the warehouse, many complain that the lumpers take a really long time to release the trucks, since we check to see if we got the right products at the correct tie and high, and there's no damage to them. I was unfortunate to encounter a complaint resulting in no longer doing lumping. I had 2 trucks to unload. One was complex while the other was simple. I started with the simple one to get it out of the way, but the complex truck started getting impatient, now rushing and doing my best to get the truck out of the way. The pallets were really tall to where I had to use 2 forklifts to push half of the pallet into an empty pallet. Since I had no help from other coworkers because I was in a rush, I messed up one of the pallets, making me redo them again. When I finally got to finish the truck, the other trucker also got so impatient. He popped his head into the gap between the trucks and the warehouse since his small truck didn't fully flush into the gate. He started ranting to me that he was waiting since 7 in the morning, 2 hours before my shift started, and that being the reason why no one comes to Cisco. I told him that I was doing multiple trucks, but he still continued ranting. But I didn't say anything afterwards, since I didn't want to escalate things. After I finished, I went to the office to return the paper to confirm that I finished, even though the trucker was there staring at me. I decided not to say anything to the manager about the conversation I had while unloading. The day after, the manager told me that I no longer can't do lumber because it also got him in a sticky situation with the impatient bastard. I told him that I felt undertrained, but I understood. The manager actually told me to talk to my sanitation manager to give me another chance to do lumping again, just this time with my lead worker. I was thinking about it for a while, but I chose not to go back. I still work at the warehouse, but since then, I've lost respect for truckers. And I will also say here, the other person that's a scumbag in this situation is not just the trucker. Your manager is a scumbag, because your manager expected you to do those tasks on your own, and then did not actually give you backup for that. And these truckers were really idiotic that they see you, a single guy, doing multiple trucks, and they still had a problem with it. Like, literally, do these guys not have brain cells? Do they not see one guy's running? If they had such a problem, they should have complained to the manager saying, why do you only have one guy doing this? Not complaining to you. It's not your fault, dude. But I have dealt with truckers that have been rude and nasty when I worked truck nights in retail. I had one guy who would not deliver the truck at a specific angle. He instead park the truck. He wanted to park the truck in the back, but the back does not fit. Our back door does not fit with the truck ramp, so we had to do it through the front. And then when he realized he couldn't do it in the back, he wanted to park the truck at a specific angle in the front, and we told him not to park at that angle because the parking lot is a little bit on the slope, and he didn't listen. And what happened was 3 pallets actually over time. First pallet snapped, a bunch of stuff fell in the parking lot. We had to clean it up. And then afterwards, when the second pallet was coming out, second pallet snapped, a bunch of stuff fell, a lot of stuff, a lot of product, hundreds of dollars worth of product, and literally picked it all up, cleaned it up, and then third pallet snapped. Again, it was annoying, and for like hours I spent cleaning the parking lot with shampoo, chips, and, you know, canned foods, other stuff. And what happened is, then after the third pallet snapped, the truck driver said, okay, I'll park where you guys want me to park. And then the other trucker, one time we had this trucker And I remember what he did was he would constantly give us an attitude every single time. And the supervisor that I had on shift would argue with him a lot. And the supervisor had called the trucker. I think they were in a phone call before the truck arrived. And what happened was the trucker, what he did was he got pissed at my supervisor. I don't know whose fault it was. I don't know if it was the supervisor's fault or the trucker's fault. But regardless of what happened, the trucker actually left the truck several miles from the store. He literally parked it somewhere and just left and just walked off the job, and he quit like that, leaving that truck there, leaving all that stuff there. And some of that stuff needed to be refrigerated. Some of that stuff we needed to put it into a refrigerator as soon as possible. So I don't know how much product got destroyed. I don't know how much product got wasted. But what happened was, and I know some people are going to say, but didn't you get paid for doing nothing that day? No, we didn't. Because as we were waiting for the truck to arrive, we were forced to actually clean the store. So we were just constantly cleaning the store. And then we had to come back like 2 days later when they had like a replacement trucker, and it messed up our sleeping schedules because everybody was just preparing for the night shift on that day. So it was just, the trucker was being pretty selfish. He should have just delivered the truck, but he didn't think about all the employees that were at the place. And I will tell you, I've had good truck drivers that actually help us unload the stuff, but then we have other truck drivers that they rush us. They're like, you guys gotta hurry up, you guys gotta do this, but they don't help us at all. They don't help us unloading the truck. They don't help us with bringing down the pallets. They expect us to do everything. Like, oh, I'm the truck driver, I'm not gonna bring that stuff down. But at the same time, they're rushing us. If you're in such a rush, help us bring some of this stuff down. But they wouldn't, and then they would rush us. But yeah, I would say that I'm sorry that you went through that. And that's the fact that they also see you're only one guy doing the job of multiple people, they still have a problem with you. Disgusting. But thank you, Angel Screwed, for that. Next one is Wrangle or Rangel Gaming 1374. A few years ago, when I was working at Walmart, it was Christmas Eve, and I was working in the frozen and dairy department, and we were told we had to front face our entire section, and that we could not leave until we were finished. Okay, so for people confused, what facing basically is in retail is when you fix the shelves. So basically, facing is you go down the aisles in the store, and if there's an item that's pushed back, you push the item to the front. So like you push it more towards closer to the aisle so the customers are able to grab it, and you organize it. You put it the item forward with the label to the back. So basically, it's straightening out the shelves, making all the product nice and organized. Doesn't sound bad at first, but you have to remember it's frozen and dairy, which is two departments. And the managers were not letting us go until everything was neat and clean. It was around 5 o'clock when everyone in the store left except us and a douchebag that was over at another department, who happened to be the store manager's son, was saying, y'all can't leave, and if y'all leave, y'all get in trouble. He was basically being like a teacher's pet, and he'd already gotten on my bad side earlier in the day, because he spoke to me in a way that made me feel like I was stupid. And I even confronted him on it, saying, don't speak to me that way. But after everyone in the store left, we organized two entire huge sections, and it felt like forever, and the managers kept rushing us instead of helping. We finished at around 6:40, and we weren't finished as we also had to put up all the stuff customers didn't want. Oh, that's throwbacks. So throwbacks are basically stuff that customers don't want, and you typically, in a big retail store, you're gonna have a lot of throwbacks every day. And so you're gonna have to do that too. We finished around 6:40, but we weren't finished, so we had to put up all the stuff customers didn't want, which really got on our nerves at the point where some of us were about to quit. We ended up pulling all the crap up, and we didn't get out till 7:20. And I remember that moment very clearly. Until this day, it pisses me off that the managers at Walmart really did this to us on Christmas Eve. Oh man. And I will say this, Rangel Gaming. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Whenever the managers don't help you, like managers are, saying, oh, you got to get this done, and they don't help you. If you ask them, can you help us? You know what the managers always say? And I'm sure it was the same thing in your store. You know what the managers say? The managers always say, oh, I have to do some paperwork in the office. That's what they always say. Whenever there's like a ton of work, whenever there's a ton of work on the floor and the manager doesn't help, I have to do some paperwork in the office. You know what I have to do some paperwork in the office really means? It means I'm going to go to the office and just sit on my phone and do absolutely nothing. That's what it means. Because I've gone in the office before to get my coat when managers have basically said, oh, I got to go to the office and do some paperwork, and they're sitting on their phones. So literally, whenever I heard managers say that, oh, I can't help you on the floor right now, I have to do some paperwork in the office. For me, that's basically a code word for saying I'm going to go to the office and just sit there and just be on my phone and do absolutely nothing, and you do all the work. And so what these managers are doing, Rangel, is they are basically milking overtime. That's what they're doing. They're milking overtime. They're making you do extra work And what they basically, and then they get extra hours for it. They get paid extra hours for doing nothing at your expense, and then they can tell the company, oh look, we got everything done this night. It looks good, better on the manager, and it takes a toll on your mental and physical health, and it's not fair to you. But that's basically what the manager was doing. He's probably scamming you, sitting in the office, doing nothing on the phone, and then expected you to do all that extra work, and at the same time filling out a report to his company saying, oh, we got all this done, blah blah blah. Next one is from Kit, Kit 089. Years ago, I worked at a dealership in New Hampshire. This gentleman had purchased a brand new Dodge truck and wanted a remote start installed on it because of the cold New England winters. That the salesperson purposely hid the key from the owner to hide the fact that the truck had already had a remote start factory installed. And then the dealership charged him about $1,000 to purchase a remote start and have it installed by the shop mechanics. And all they did was hid the truck behind the building for a few hours and specifically told me and my department to not touch it. And if anyone relays the message to that new owner that the truck had already had a remote start, we would be fired immediately. The owner was in his late 70s and was not aware that he was being scammed by the dealership. All to make a profit by scamming is disgusting. Oh my god, that's horrible. And this is, oh man, this is exactly what I mean when I say, how can some of these people sleep at night like these managers? I'm not talking about you, Kit. You're not really at fault for this, but it's like the managers. Like, how can they sleep at night taking advantage of people and scamming people like this? It's just disgusting. And they charged him an extra $1,000 that was already installed in the thing. And the thing is, when you're in a situation like this, you really don't know what to do. There really is no answer on what to do, because you could tell the guy that he's being scammed. But if that happens, you're getting fired. And maybe you could sue for retaliation. Maybe you could get a lawyer involved in that and help you sue the dealership. But it's still a tricky situation. And so you feel really bad at that same time. You know the guy's getting scammed, but then you don't know what to do because you have to pay the bills and you have to provide for your family too, and it's your job, and you're going to get fired if you don't say anything. And so it's a really tricky situation. I'm sorry that you went through that, dude. And you're honestly, your management at that dealership are just absolute scumbags. Oh man, I'm sorry you went for that, and horrible what they did to that old guy. Next one is from Michael Gibbons, 4738. Had two disciplinaries while working for a well-known UK store. One was theft of time because I was seen to be on my break longer than I should have been. My break was often interrupted as I was a first aider. And the other was theft of product despite being at the till paying for it. Most people last a year at most. And the thing about this is companies will try to find excuses in order to fire somebody. And the reason they'll try to find excuses to fire somebody is so that they can hire a new person and pay them less. Because if you've been working for the company for some time, they'll try to find something stupid to basically fire you for. Companies basically will try to fire you, and they will make ridiculous excuses. They'll try to find something stupid just so that they can fire you, hire a new worker, and actually pay him less. So companies, there is no such thing as really as employee loyalty and company loyalty. There is no such thing. Companies basically see you as disposable. That's what it is. I've never been written up. Thankfully, I haven't had something like that. And you said that you're a first aider. I'm assuming that means that you're trained in first aid. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they're asking you for they're accusing you of theft of time. For that, that's you could have had. I don't know what UK laws are. Maybe you could have had a lawsuit for something like that. The final manager that I had was actually a decent guy, and if we actually got understaffed, what my manager did was he let me go on break, but it was a paid break. Because I had 30-minute breaks that were unpaid, but he would let me go on paid breaks. So he would let me basically eat for 30 minutes and I was paid for it. And what would happen is if he needed my help, he would call me and I would just basically help him that. And then he would give me the rest of the time. So however, time was, taken away from that, he would give me the rest of it. So my manager was fair to me on that. But yeah, that's disgusting. But most people lasted only a year. Oof. Chevy fan, next 80884. When I worked at Home Depot, I worked in the paint department, mostly because I had a knack for it. During my time, we had a regular thief at the store who we called the Red Bull thief. The guy would come in through the front door and grab 4 to 5 Red Bull energy drinks and walk around the store drinking them without paying for them. What the hell? If you're thinking if they're gonna steal something, they're gonna steal something healthier to drink, not like 4 to 5 Red Bulls. What this guy's probably as hyper as and fast as Sonic the Hedgehog at that point. He'd finish them, and then he'd leave the empty cans on shelves throughout the store. It came to my attention when I saw the guy come into the paint and set the can on one of the paint department shelves. I go to pick it up, and it's still ice cold. He basically chugged it. Then a few weeks later, I was helping out cashiers up front, and the same guy came back. I called our manager on duty, who was the kind of guy to get something done, to the front immediately, and pointed the thief out. The manager catches him doing exactly what I said happened earlier. Management allegedly banned him from our store because apparently this was going on for months. He must have gotten banned, arrested, or shops at a different store now because I haven't seen him in nearly 6 years. And it's good you didn't have to deal with it. And I will tell you, it's also disgusting that you would have to, clean that up and deal with this. This situation happened very similarly to me, but for me, it was not the Red Bull guy. For me, it was actually the chocolate guy. So there was this guy that would come into the store, and he would eat a chocolate bar, and he ate like almost half of it, like 50% of it exactly, and he would eat different chocolate bars, and he would fold the chocolate bar, and he would just shove it somewhere randomly in the store, like all over the place. Cold section, food section, cleaning section. He would just always shove it somewhere random. And as I was cleaning the store, I found literally a half-eaten chocolate bar every single day. It was disgusting. It was ridiculous. And the thing is, I didn't know who was doing it. I didn't. And I told my manager about this, and my manager did was, one day he actually caught the guy, and he actually even showed me the videotape of him catching the guy. I wasn't on shift that day. My manager caught him in the act, and it was actually an old guy. Like, the guy was, in his late 70s, and I was actually surprised that, an old guy would do something like that. I really was, because my impression was always that somebody that's shoplifting is, going to be in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. I didn't think that somebody that was that old was going to be shoplifting, but that changed my view. I thought that shoplifters were always going to be young people. I didn't think that a shoplifter could be that old. But he was confronted on it, and basically he asked the manager, how much do I owe you at this point? The manager says, the amount of chocolate bars you've eaten, you probably owe me over $200. Because this was so many chocolate bars, and this happened over 2 or 3 year period, and that was the first time we caught the guy. So how many did he go through exactly? And then he actually came back to the store 5 minutes later with $200, and he's like, I want to make restitution, and he just puts it on the counter. And my manager's like, no, get out of here, you're banned from the store, you're gone. And what really pissed me off, and this is where your manager did a better thing too, because your manager seems to have permanently banned the guy from the store, Chevy. But in my case, what actually happened was, a month later, I saw the chocolate guy shopping again. And I immediately called the manager. I'm like, he's in the store. My manager's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, aren't we going to kick him out? We're going to call the police? He's like, no, we're not going to do this. Let him shop. And I confronted my manager about that. And I said, well, why are we not kicking him out of the store? And my manager basically said, yeah, but I don't want him to call corporate and complain. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, seriously? He's not a customer. He just comes in the store and literally steals chocolate bars. He eats half chocolate bars and just puts them somewhere. That is not a customer. Who cares if he complains to corporate? Who cares? The manager was like, oh, well, corporate is going to care. Yeah. And the fact, this shows you how stupid corporate is, that they are going to care about a shoplifter stealing. But here's the thing. Thankfully, he never did that again. So I saw him in the store multiple times. He never did that thing with the chocolate bar. It never happened again. But I guess he was just scared that we were on to him at that point. But that was ridiculous that the manager would not. He should have been permanently banned from the store. After the amount of chocolate bars I cleaned up over the years, that guy should have been permanently banned. And so I was pissed about that. Even if he stopped doing it, I was still pissed. I don't think he should have been ever let back in the store. But unfortunately, management was like, oh, we don't want him to complain to corporate, and that happened. It was during my internship. I had no introduction whatsoever to the rooms in the back where you stash your stuff and all. All I knew was there was this door we could open if we wanted to take a smoking break. So I opened the door and accidentally tripped the alarm. The manager blamed me for it, but there was no sign whatsoever. Since I was an intern, she made me stay 2 more hours. I don't live in the States, so the laws for school internship can be a bit different over here. Well, where are you exactly, MSN 0 620? But I will say this about internships. Internships are literally some of the biggest scams ever. They're scams. A lot of people do internships because they think that they'll give them experience. And so what internships basically are, they're a way for companies to get free or cheap labor. And so you will be working at a company, helping a boss or something like that, for whatever your college degree is. And the boss will say, "Oh, you're getting work experience. So when you're getting work experience. So when you actually when you need when you go to actually get your job and your degree, this will help you out and you'll be experienced and you'll be ready." But no, it's just an excuse for them to actually get free and cheap labor, and so they will scam students. Like, students will get paid very little to almost nothing in these places. So I think internships are a bad idea. I personally think internships are a scam. That's how I feel about internships. I think they're scams. But your manager did not even teach you about that door. And a lot of managers do this stuff like this, is they will basically leave you in places. So they will leave you somewhere, like they'll basically train you for maybe an hour. And then after an hour, they expect you to be fully experts in the store or wherever else you're working, and they'll just leave you by yourself. And that's one of the stupidest things. The whole first day, management should be with you. The whole first day. It shouldn't just be 1 hour and then they abandon you and they leave you there. And then the management gets pissed at you and they act like you're an idiot if you don't know how to do something. I've had that happen to me before in retail. When I tried to ask my manager to teach me how I can do passport photos. And what happened is, my manager and my supervisors always said to me, "Oh, we don't have time. Tomorrow we'll teach you. Tomorrow we'll teach you." And then it was like 3 or 4 months had passed, and a customer asked me for help with a passport photo, and I told him I don't know how to do a passport photo. I'll get my supervisor. I called up my supervisor, and she said, "Do the passport photo." "Why are you calling me?" And I told her, "I don't know how to do the passport photo." And she's like, "You've been working here for how many months, and you don't know how to do a passport photo?" And I didn't know how to talk to people back then. I was just scared. I did not want to confront people. But honestly, if it was me, all those years back, I would have said to her, "And I asked you multiple times to teach me how to do something, but you didn't teach me, and now you're getting pissed at me for this." So I should have honestly said that to her. But she gave me an attitude, even though I asked her multiple times to train me. She didn't, and then she got pissed at me that I didn't know how to do something. But you didn't do anything wrong, MSN, and you didn't know. And at the same time, too, is they kept you for 2 more hours. I don't know if that's legal, if they can do something like that. And next one, DogHot7405. "I've had customers threaten to kill me over random minor issues that were encountered in the store. We would get screamed at and threatened for wearing masks back in 2020. People even try to cough on us." What? "My manager even had a knife pulled on him after he caught someone stealing." Oh my god. And I am so grateful that I didn't work during COVID. I am so grateful. I quit in September 2019, about half a year before COVID started. I am so grateful I did not work during COVID, because that would have just been... Because the store that I worked at, if we told customers to wear masks, they would have given us an attitude. They would have cursed at us. They would have freaked out on us. So I can imagine that customers would have given us massive attitudes. And people would try to cough on you. Here's the thing is, if somebody tries to cough on you, that's assault. That is. If you can prove they intentionally tried to cough on you, that is very much assault. You could charge them with a crime for that. And my manager had a knife pulled on him after he caught someone stealing. Ugh. A lot of people that steal are very unstable people. They're actually drug addicts. They are. So I would never recommend confronting a shoplifter. If you see somebody shoplifting, maybe I guess just tell your manager, but never confront them. Because you don't know what state of mind that they're in. And like I said, they're only thinking about the drug. They're not thinking about anything else. One of my coworkers, she actually confronted a guy once who was shoplifting, and she said, "Are you gonna pay for that?" After he basically just stuffed a bunch of stuff in his sweater, and he had pushed her into an end cap. And she was okay. She was a bit shaken, but she was fine. But I don't ever recommend confronting these customers personally. This one is from my friend Blinded Eagle right here. Just as a heads up, I have two different stories. And the second one I told you about this in a party, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And for those who don't know, I work at Taco Bell. Anyway, here's story one. So basically, almost a year ago, in May, I had pretty much clocked in, and I was doing some prep for supplies that we needed. And there was this coworker, about my age, and I was just talking to him, initiating a conversation. I'm not going to spare the details, but basically, we started to misunderstand each other. And he started to get really pissed off. And I was getting confused on what was going on, until my assistant GM pulled me aside into my office to explain to me why my coworker was mad. And I tried to explain to him that I didn't mean to make him mad in any way. Then maybe 5 minutes later, my boss comes back. I think he was getting something from another store, and he pulled me outside, and my god, he was mad. Like, I actually thought I was going to get fired. Except that's not what happened. I told the truth with full honesty, what happened. He took me and my coworker into the office to settle it, and we had just come to the conclusion that we both misunderstood each other in our own way, and we crossed lines. At least the happy ending to that was us giving each other a bro hug, and I apologized to him multiple times because I admitted that I felt like shit, and I should have appreciated I should have approached the conversation way different. Anyway, after my coworker leaves the office, my boss was talking to me about a few things in terms of my performance, and he was just pointing out a few things until he drops the bombshell that he was going to leave soon. It was like 2 weeks later he had left. Keep in mind that I really had a connection to my boss in a way that I never had, because this was my first job, and he took a chance on me and really made me feel like I belong in numerous ways. This actually really hurt because I wished he didn't had to leave, and it really started to stress me out because I didn't know who would take his place, if if they would be good or not, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But right after that, since at that time his birthday was like 2 days later, I told him to look in his drawer, and he saw that I had gotten him a birthday card, and I wrote a message in it, and I got him a copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 and a $25 of PSN credit. He didn't expect it, but he said he really appreciated it, and we gave each other that bro hug out of appreciation. And because I told him I was really going to miss him, I ended up going to his going away party, and I hung out there for a bit, ate sometimes. He would come into the lobby to sit with the rest of us, and we had a good time. One of the last things I told him was that I admitted many days I didn't want to come in because I was in a bad state mentally. However, I told him that I came anyways because I didn't want to let my team down, including him, because he took a chance on me. I told him I still had numerous screenshots of when we would previously talk, and how he said things like, and I quote, "You have a leader mentality, and I respect you on a whole different level for that." I still have his last few messages screenshotted on my phone, and I told him that I wish him the best, and he told me to keep being great, and that one day you will see what your mom and I do. Never let a bully make you think any less of yourself, because you and I both know you're a rock star. Or besides that last time I'd seen him was mid July, after I came back from Europe, because at that time we had just released a new street, Chalupas. So he came in and I got to talk to him for a bit. And other than that, I haven't gotten to talk to him since my birthday. He sent me a message, but I hope to see him again soon. And what I will say is, you have a good relationship with your boss, Blinded Eagle. At least that's what it seemed like. I did not have that good relationship with my first boss, unfortunately. My first boss, he scammed me, basically. I don't want to get into the whole story, but he promised me that he would get me a raise, and he told me the day before his final shift to come into work early to talk to him about that after I asked him for it, and I came in early and he didn't show up. And he ignored all my messages, and he scammed me, and I'll personally never forget that. But you had a good relationship with your boss. I hope that your new boss was a good guy, and I hope he didn't, pull any crap. Anyways, here's story 2, definitely a bit shorter. A few weeks ago, I had a morning, 9 to 5 p.m. shift on a Sunday, and I was working with someone who it was their first day, so I had to train her on some stuff. We were both doing service that day. Anyway, I was already set to leave, but I had to wait for my coworker to come in, who's usually a bit later, because apparently he and his mom share a car. Dude's probably 19 or 20. Anyways, at one point, we asked him where he was, and he still wasn't coming, which caused me to get held up for 45 minutes. And my mom was also waiting for me for that long. I have a permit, but no license. And at one point, they just let me go. Fast forward a week or so, I find out that that kid was sleeping, and he actually came in late. It wasn't a no-show like I thought in that moment. And holy hell, that pissed me off. Like I understand sometimes you need to crash and take a long-ass nap, but if it wasn't that, it would have been the excuse. You didn't have a ride, and yet there's so many possibilities. Get a friend or neighbor, take an Uber, Lyft. Not to mention, that holds people up like me. My mom was waiting for me for so long, maybe 30 minutes. She literally went to a store, came back, and I still wasn't done. Since then, I don't think I've worked with this kid, And to be honest, I hope this doesn't happen again because it doesn't. It does with no communication. I'm out, bro. Oh man. And I will tell you something about this Blinded Eagle. The thing that's the most frustrating here in situations like this is that when people pull this crap, when they call out, like this, and they don't show up to work, it's all about themselves. They never think about their coworkers. They never think about screwing their coworkers over that are there. And you were counting on this guy, and this guy had basically screwed you over. I had a coworker of mine who I remember it was such a horrible experience, such a bad one, where what he did was he had actually called the store when I was literally 5 minutes before I was supposed to leave. And he said, oh, Patrick, I can't come into work today. And I was like, oh, God, no. And what happened is I basically, I said, I'm going to put you to the manager. And I just connected him to the manager. Manager calls me back like 2 minutes later and says, Patrick, can you stay? And he started guilt tripping me. I need you here, blah, blah, blah. And like being the young, naive kid that I was, I agreed to stay hours later. But then there was another coworker of mine who was even worse, where the manager messed up my schedule. He put me at 11 o'clock in the morning on one shift. And what happened is I went to bed kind of late. I went to bed at like 4 a.m. and I get woken up at 7 a.m. That's when the store opens, and I get told that the manager did not put anyone else on shift. He only put the supervisor on shift, and so they needed me at the store at 7 o'clock in the morning with 3 hours of sleep. And what happened is I told my supervisor that I have to eat breakfast first and get ready, and they kind of rushed me. But I had breakfast. I came to the store, and then what happened is hours later. It was like, I think like 5 hours later, I was supposed to go home at that point. It was like, 12, 1 p.m. A coworker of mine basically says, oh, there's a snowstorm outside. It was a bit snowing, but the thing is, I had driven through that snow. And I lived way closer, I lived way farther from the store than he did. He lived way closer than me, and he didn't want to come in. And then I had to stay an extra 2 hours. And that was like, I'll say, and that guy was not necessarily caring about the safety. He was always like that. He was always slacking off. He was not, coming into work. These two coworkers are different, by the way, but that was basically what it was like. Is he didn't care at all. He did not care at all about his coworkers. He took advantage of his coworkers. That guy was even a creep. He even started asking one of my coworkers out on a date, even though he was married. That's what was so creepy about that guy. But that's one thing one advice that I can give you, Blinded Eagle, is that. A lot of people say your coworkers are not your friends. What I would rephrase that as is I would rephrase some coworkers are your friends. Some coworkers can be your friends. They really can. Like, you said you have a good relationship with your manager. But other coworkers are not your friends. They are not. And you make sure you do your best to try to identify who those people are. And you don't owe any of these people favors. So the coworkers who aren't helping you out, coworkers help you out, try to return the favor, try to help them out. But the coworkers who pull crap like this, like, I would have never helped that guy out. If that guy needed my help with something and I didn't have to help him, I would never help him out again after that, personally. Next one is from my moderator here, Soundinfected Gaming 349. Thank you, dude. In 2017, I worked for a real Canadian superstore grocery store during a busy Christmas, and the snow was brutal, and I was pushing carts, and I could barely push them because the snow was so bad, and the snow plows were really late, and I got a lot of bad, angry customers calling me weakling when the snow was really deep, and I got multiple reports from the manager saying that I'm slacking off, and I got yelled at by the manager and customers nonstop. Super stressful Christmas for me, and I didn't get paid enough for working that job. And I had felt like I was working labor that day. Definitely one of the worst shifts I had during that day in 2017. I felt like a slave. Oh man, I'm sorry, dude. Uh, why are customers calling you a weakling when like you're pushing carts? It's none of their business. If like they could have helped you. But, like, just walking up to somebody, especially, like, in the snow and pushing... And the thing is, I've dealt with carts stuck in the snow. When carts get stuck in the snow, that is not easy. That is annoying. And pushing them through that can be a nightmare. And especially if the wheels get jammed, oh, man, that's the absolute worst. At that point, you were pretty much dragging the cart across the aisle. But that's... The manager, and the yelled at by the manager and the customers nonstop. The manager should have been out there helping you. I'm sorry that you went through that, Zom. Next one here is from Hell Rizor. I was working in Menards as a cart attendant in 2023. It was the midday of July during this event. One of my duties was to help people load and unload products to their vehicles. Well, I was called in to help take a 50-pound water heater tank out of a pickup truck. The owner of the tank was telling me about how he'd recently had all his toes removed from diabetes and couldn't help me at all. I managed to get one of the co-workers to help because I am not the rock, so it's a little hard to do alone. We begin to lower this tank down when at least a little liter of dirty water just spilled all over my legs and feet. I didn't flinch and just continued to get his tank down safely and inside. Now soaking wet in this disgusting water, my coworker and I discuss what just happened. So the rest of the day, I am smelly, sticky, sweaty, having to be cooked alive in this parking lot for at least 3 hours of my shift. Was absolutely disgusting. And I remember the smell to this day, making me gag to think how bad. Oh, man. And I will say this, too. That customer probably knew that that tank was going to leak. I'm not questioning his diabetes, but I'm saying is that he might have known that that tank was leaking when he was asking you to help him with that. And did this guy even give you a tip? Did he? I hope he gave you a tip, because I will tell you, if that was me in that situation and I had asked somebody to lift something like that and it basically spilled all over them and just ruined their uniform, I would have felt so bad that I would have given them a really big tip for that, as compensation for that. I would have felt really guilty over that. So did he at least give you a tip? I hope he gave you a tip, but that's completely on him. He could have at least told you that there's stuff in the water heater still. Oh, man, oh, I'm sorry, dude. Next one is from Gray VZ 4535. I have a couple that would cover several points on these industries. LOL. My wife and I met. My wife and I met working at a fast food restaurant. We made the decision to move to another location in downtown Dallas, and it was terrible. We liked the schedule because it was Monday through Friday. However, the amount of BS we had to deal with, like one time a homeless person walks in and starts yelling at us. Then my manager happened to be there, steps up, and the homeless person, which didn't seem to be all there, grabs all of the sauce packets, etc., and chucks them at my manager. What the? Another time is the restroom. Not many people had access since it was one of those where you would have to ask for the key to enter. However, one time at the end of the shift, when we are checking everything to go home, I kid you not, we opened the door and feces were absolutely everywhere on the floor, walls, and it was just really got me thinking if it was really worth it. We eventually decided to each start our own separate careers, do stuff like that, and the treatment we were getting. Ooh. I'll say this first about this, that about the guy chucking, packets, food packets at your what was he chucking here again? Sauce packets that he was chucking. I have never seen I've seen a customer really only chuck one thing. It wasn't sauce packets, but what happened was a customer came in trying to return gift cards, and the gift card rack is a big sign, no returns for gift cards, because once the money's on the gift card, there's no way for us to get it back. So there's no way for us to do return. And the customer took like a bunch of gift cards, like just took them off of it, and just walked up to the counter where my supervisor was and just did that, like, to her. So she didn't really get hurt. It was just like a bunch of like gift cards that he just chucked at her, and he just walked out. That was the craziest thing I've seen somebody chuck. But man, oh man, but that's assault. Even if somebody is chucking something so light at you, like even if somebody takes a gift card and just throws that to you, that's technically assault. That is. So the sauce packets, your manager could have definitely pressed charges. About the restrooms, if I was running a business, because there are certain laws in certain states where you have to have businesses open to the public, but if my law said that I didn't have to have a bathroom open to the public, if I didn't, I would have had no bathrooms open to the public if I legally could do that. Because exactly stuff like this, if it's not your bathroom, and so customers are not going to they're not going to clean up after themselves. They're not going to take care of the bathroom. They're going to create messes. I've cleaned up bathrooms. I didn't see anything that bad, like what you had, feces all over the wall. I've seen messes that I've cleaned up, but nothing that bad. But oh man, just thinking about that being on the walls. Ugh, sorry you went through that. I also witnessed other things, like harassment from customers to all team members. And I'm one of those people that will not let myself or anyone else be treated that way, so I would always step in a civilized manner. I would argue with customers about the way they were treating us, which would usually be those people that yell and make a whole show of the situation. I also one time heard about a shift leader and a cook having a good time in the parking lot while the cook was married and everyone knew. Cops ended up arresting both of them for a good time in the parking lot? Wait, do you mean they were having an affair and they were doing drugs? Is that what you mean? Oh, And there was a about that. There was actually a supervisor at my job that actually had an affair with a coworker of mine, and another supervisor that was actually married to them, and they actually broke off the engagement over that, or they were about to be married, a fiance. But that was, I don't know how she found out about that. I didn't even know that that affair was going on. But that was ugh, that's since it was downtown, one time a guy from a hospital walks in and orders food. He was still literally on his gown, and IVs were still on him, which just threw us off. He eventually sits on the bench outside, and cops, firefighters, and all his family members all show up since they were looking for him. So he was missing from the hospital. We had a hospital down the street from us, and we had like drug addicts come into the pharmacy for like medication, stuff like that. But I've never seen something like that. The main reason why I decided to quit was due to me being promoted to shift leader, and after months still being paid the same. And they promoted you, great, without asking you. So they gave you more responsibilities and didn't give you more work. Yeah, you were 100% right to quit on them. And the thing is, promotions at a lot of retail places are usually a scam, because they will promote you to like supervisor, but then give you like double the work, double, triple the work, and maybe they'll give you like a quarter, 50 cents more an hour. It's not worth it for that extra amount of work. At my job, they tried to promote me several times supervisor, but I kept refusing. I kept refusing the promotion. So I would not go to the training, I would not do it, and they couldn't, promote me. And they got pissed. They kept trying to promote me, but I didn't want it, because I knew that what they were going to do. I knew they were going to throw a ton of work at me and barely pay me extra for it. Now, after some years have passed by, my wife and I are thankful of where we currently stand, and that we went through all that stuff and much more. Every time we go to any fast food place or restaurant or anything like that, we remember how it was to be in that spot and have the utmost respect for people working retail or food service jobs, all that BS they have to deal with on a daily basis. I agree with you, and working in retail has really opened my eyes, and I did not know just how bad people in the retail and the food industry had, like like I started working in 2013, so yeah, more than a decade ago. I really had no, like 12 years ago, I had no idea how bad people had it in the food industry and the retail industry, the amount of crap that they had to go through. But it makes me, like, whenever I'm on a line at a retail place or a food place and I'm waiting in a long line, I don't complain. I don't make a big deal, because I know the employees are probably trying their best, and they're probably going through some BS, and they're probably short-staffed, which is why that's happening. Next one here from True Shashta. I once had a customer throw blue roll at me because he thought he was we were locking him in the store. He then proceeded to start breaking the back door of the store, and the cops had to be called. What? Was the guy high or something? What? I will tell you though that at my store we had it happen where I was working at like 7 o'clock in the morning. This is like literally the first few months I started working. I was on the register, and I was not a good morning person, so I was like half asleep at the register. And what happened is, out of nowhere, I hear like the woman in the cosmetics department in my store just screaming, and she starts screaming like, call the police. And I was like, what? And I see this guy like run towards like the front lobby, or like that door room, like the door room between the store and the outside, and he had a black garbage bag. And she was pulling on the garbage bag, and he was pulling on the garbage bag. And eventually he just let go of the garbage bag, and the guy just ran out in the parking lot. And what the guy was doing is he was taking like medication, like cold medicine, stuff like that, and just all shoving it in the garbage bag. And he was trying to make meth. At least that's what we thought he was trying to do. Next one from VPTKMRN 5939. I don't live in the US, but where I work still have its fair share of retail horror stories. One that I distinctly remember involves one of the retail workers' worst enemies, coupons. Oh, the coupon person who takes way too long. I was working a night shift with another coworker, and then comes this middle-aged man that came towards us with a basket full of drinks and basically shoved a digital coupon right in our faces. One of those membership apps offers it can only be used once. Seeing as I was new to the store at the time and not familiar with the store systems, the coworker handled it, and with each scan of a drink, the coupon was scanned as well, basically following basic procedures, and the man left without issues. But about 19 minutes later, that man, still carrying that load of drinks, came barging into the store and raged at us for allegedly stealing his coupons and demanded a refund. The coworker refused, saying that she followed the store's procedures, and that the man just got even angrier, yelling a metric shit ton of swears at us before the coworkers realized what was happening. That coupon could only be used once and to one item, and the guy didn't know about that. No, he knew about that. He was just probably trying to scam you. Needless to say, the man still isn't convinced and left the store still screaming profanity at us and threatened to file a complaint. The thing about this is that uh, a lot of the thing is the coupon people, the coupon kings and queens. Usually, these people are massive Karens, and they know if they complain enough, they know they'll eventually get what they want. And have you ever noticed how there's like a long line that forms when Karens are there? Karens will use that to their advantage. They will specifically try to form long lines, and they'll do that on purpose because they know that if there's a long line, you're gonna feel pressured by all the customers in the back, and you're just gonna give them what they want. And so they will use the pressure of the long line. That's why Karens always come midday, like they come in like the worst times. It's not a coincidence. They do that on purpose because they know the more people online, that if they keep complaining, you're just gonna give them whatever they want, and you're gonna give them their deal and whatever else. Never saw that guy again, thankfully, and never did receive a complaint. And yeah, I will tell you something. The coupon kings and queens. I've seen people come into a store with trying to buy like $200 worth of merchandise, and they will come in with those coupons, and they will get that $200 worth of merchandise down to like $10, $15. Like, and they'll still complain. They'll still complain if like one coupon didn't go through. Meanwhile, I see them driving Mercedes cars outside. So like they will be driving the most expensive car ever, but then when it comes to being in the store itself, they will literally fight over like a dollar or two. Next one is from Tanya Runkle. Uh, hey Patrick, my name's Toby. I was working at a Burlington in Pennsylvania, and I was a back of house worker, which is pretty much stocking. And I was getting boxes off a manual conveyor where they push it down the line, and I was at the end to open boxes and put security tags on items. And one day I was working my normal shift, and the manager was angry. She had to pitch in because the older man we had working with us took a day off, and she had kept shoving a box down the line at me, and she smashed my hand 3 times. Not to mention I had a box cutter for open the boxes to tag items, and the third time she did it, I asked her to send them down lightly. She hurt my hand 3 times, and plus I have an open blade, and she just lost total control and started screaming at me in front of all my coworkers. Called me slow, called me a sloth, and told me she didn't care she hurt my hand. I don't tell her what to do, so I walked out that day. I refused to be belittled for just asking her to push the boxes down a little lighter. And I won't be returning to retail anytime soon. I really hope you didn't just walk out. I hope you quit after that. That's disgusting. That and this isn't just a regular this person is not just a regular coworker. This person is a manager. So it's a manager that's actually hurting you, and they don't even care about hurting their employees. You get out of that environment. And also, I don't know if you're in America. Oh, you are in America. You're in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. Just misread there. You're in Pennsylvania. But there are state agencies. I don't remember what the state agency is called, Toby, but there are state agencies that you can report unsafe working conditions to. But I would Google, like, Pennsylvania, working conditions agency, whatever the government agency is, and you can just report them. And that agency will come in, and your name, I'm pretty sure that when you report something, your name is anonymous, so the company does not actually find out who called it in. But that's something that you might want to do, because if they hurt you, it's good you walked out. They hurt you like that, they definitely are going to hurt somebody else too. And next one we got right here is from GTA Gar. There's an old man that used to come into the restaurant that I work at, that came in really early in the morning on the weekends and pooped all over the bathroom. It got on the walls and everything. Since I'm the dishwasher and handle all the dirty work, I'm the one who was paid to clean it up. At least I got an extra $120 in cash from my boss weekly for it. Thankfully, he was banned just about a week ago, and I haven't seen him since. He was banned a week ago, thankfully. He hasn't returned since. Oh, man. Your manager, at least, is a nice guy that he paid you more for it. So a lot of retail places are not going to pay their employees more for doing that. They're not. They're going to pay them whatever the wage that they're getting paid. But your manager seems like a decent guy. At least he paid you for it, and you don't have to deal with the disgusting mess. At least not for a long time, because that guy was banned. But another customer might eventually do something like that. But man, at least your boss paid you extra for it. Next one is from Steph. Steph for the way 99. Oh God, where do I begin? Oh yes, when I had to call the cops on a guy for raising havoc over trying to pay a bill for a phone number that didn't exist, or when I accidentally got into a confrontation with a religious activist after I stupidly said that I'm an atheist, which I am. Well, that kind of backfired, and I had to hide from the store for about 3 hours. What? Oh man. And I will tell you something something really creepy about this. I don't know why I don't know why. You're saying that this person was a religious activist, right? So this person was probably going around asking people their religion. That's probably what they were doing. And you probably told them that you're an atheist, and they got all pissed off and angry about that. I've actually had a customer that was that walked around the store, and what they would do is this happened like the first week of after the election in 2016. And the election in 2016 was a very heated election. I'm not going to get into the politics. I'm going to stay out of that completely. But this customer would basically walk around the store, and they would ask us who we voted for. And they would ask other customers also who we voted for, like it was their business. And what happened, my supervisor actually said to her, it is none of your business who I voted for. And what happens is if somebody in the store told them the wrong person that they voted for that they didn't like, they would absolutely raise hell. And that's one of the stupidest things that I think you can do, walking around the store asking people what their religion is, or asking them literally what who they voted for. And in America, that's generally a pretty offensive thing to ask people what their religion is, and especially that in a working environment. It's one thing if you ask like friends or family, like, you know, their religious beliefs, but if you ask like complete strangers that, especially when they're working, that is very rude in American culture. That is not acceptable at all. And also, you didn't really do anything wrong, Steph. You answered their question. You told them I'm an atheist. They asked you something, and they got pissed about that. You did absolutely nothing wrong there. Let me see here. Well, the weirdest of them was with this perverted old dude that came by my store and wanted me to sign him up to dating apps. What? What? I even had to write up his profile for him. He even came back at multiple points to show me who he was speaking with. I kind of felt bad for him because all of those women were just catfish profiles. Sadly, he didn't get that idea. And unfortunately for him, he was frequenting my store until I eventually left for about 4 months straight every single day. Catfish are basically scams where scammers will pretend to be younger women and will basically scam older men out of their money. They'll convince them to basically send a bunch of money to them. There was actually an old guy that came to my he came to my store and he tried to buy a bunch of Google Play gift cards. And he said that his grandson is in jail and that the government needs him to go and buy Google Play gift cards right now. We knew it was a scam. And that's the grandparent scam. The grandparent scam is when scammers will basically call you. They say that they're the police, and they'll say your grandson is in jail right now. If you want to get them out, you go and buy gift cards. And we try to tell the old guy. We try to tell him that it's a scam. It's a scam. It's a scam. He wouldn't listen. He would say, "Mind your own business. Mind your own business." He ended up buying the gift cards, not from me. He rung it up from my coworker. He came back about an hour and a half later, and he asked if there's a way to get the money back. There was not. It was gone. He didn't complain, and he just left. He felt like defeated. But that's the thing is that these old people are not as used to technology, and so they will fall for stuff like that. Like they will fall for stuff like that. Like they'll be in grandparent panic mode, worrying about their grandson or their granddaughter, and they won't be thinking about if it's a scam or not. They'll just go and do whatever the scammer's telling them to do. But yeah, that was. But yeah, I would say that is really creepy that he wanted you to make his dating profile. That's. Ugh. Another story which had nothing to do with a customer interaction was about the first few weeks of me working there, where we somehow ended up with a squirrel stuck in the wall. What? We unfortunately had no idea how to get him out, and our boss didn't really bother to call the exterminator because it was too expensive, and they had to tear the wall down. Well, we had to work for about a month and a half with that squirrel squeaking into some part of the wall. It was even on the ceiling until it eventually died. Oh, man. Ugh. Oh, man. We've had mice die in the store before, and when a mouse dies, it has a very unique smell when it dies. I'm even getting sick just thinking about it, but it's a very unique smell, and you know that there's a dead mouse around here somewhere. It was disgusting. Ugh. Oh, man. Sorry you went through that, Steph. Hi, professional. This is not really retail, but 9 to 5 job nonetheless. I was recently in a car crash that was very easily could have ended my life. I got fired for not being able to return to work quick enough, as I was a maintenance tech, so I needed my body. And unfortunately, the state I live in, You cannot take legal action against an employer for firing you unless you can prove discrimination. It feels like a punch to the gut at my lowest time, because before this, I would honestly describe it as my dream job. I just don't know where to go from here. I'm taking the other party's insurance to court so I can at least have a roof over my head. Oh, man. I'm sorry you went through that diff snicker, and at least you're okay. You know, I'm glad you didn't get even more hurt. You know, it could have been much worse, but I'm glad that you're okay, dude. But what your boss did to you is messed up and wrong, but unfortunately, I think that they can fire people for that. I'm not defending it, but if even if you got hurt, as if you got hurt driving for the company, it's a little bit different. But if you got hurt on your own time, even if it's not your fault, like, you know, this idiot who hit you, that they the company, I'm pretty sure, can fire you for that. You might be able to maybe get a case, talk to a lawyer about that for retaliation, that you didn't come to work after getting, you know, into an accident, but I don't think that this is going to that it's going to work. But I will also say this and this snicker, it's good that you told me this, because this right here, this comment should blow up. It really should. This comment is a perfect example that there is no such thing as company loyalty. This right here, your comment, your story, it's a perfect example. You work for a company. You give everything for that company. You work hard for that company. You try to help that company succeed. And you get hurt by somebody that's not your fault. And does the company stand up for you? Does the company say, you know, we'll wait for you until you get better? No, they just fire you. They get rid of you. They see you as disposable. Oh, he can't work right now? I don't need him. I'm firing him. So your story is a perfect example of the fact that there's no such thing as company loyalty. Companies will take advantage of their workers, and when they don't need their workers anymore, they're disposable. They're just going to get rid of them. They're just going to throw them in the garbage. That's exactly how companies treat their employees. There's no such thing as company loyalty. And I'm sorry. You said this was your dream job. I'm sorry that you got fired from it. I'm sorry, dude. Next one from Mr. Vanderlyn, 1899. When I worked at McDonald's, impatient people kept walking behind the counter asking for the staff to help them out with their order. The McDonald's I worked at only had like 5 people working, and we were always busy, so it took us a while to help other people at the counter. Not really a horror story, just something that annoyed all of us. I haven't had customers go behind the counter, but I have had a customer that follow the manager into the office. So the office doors that we have a staircase that goes right up to the office. And when the office door in my retail place, when that closed, the door would automatically lock. So you cannot open it from the outside. But if somebody opened the door and you caught the door before it was opening, you could easily get up there. And that's what happened. My supervisor, she was going up in the office, and the customer actually followed her up in the office as she was going up there. Literally, when there's the safe and all the money is up there. And she told the customer, you have to get out of here. You cannot be in here. And the customer was like complaining something about their coupons or something in the store, something being out of stock. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was some kind of customer complaint. That's ridiculous that the customer cannot even comprehend that they're breaking the law, that they're trespassing, they're not supposed to be in an area. And the area said, do not enter, only for staff. And yet they're completely oblivious to stuff like that. But I can imagine that's annoying. You are in the middle of a bunch of orders, you're cooking food, you're making food for a lot of people, and then you have like idiots that are like trespassing behind the counter, because when they go behind the counter, they're trespassing. They go behind the counter and they are they're rushing you. And you now feel even more pressured, and you have some guy back here that's not supposed to be back here, and you have to deal with him now, and also deal with the customers online that are being demanding. Oh man, sorry you went through that, dude. Next one, a fat, slow Jaguar. Worked at Home Depot for almost 3 years. A customer asked me if there was more to the store than just the lumber department, while we stood next to the electrical aisles across the store from the lumber. Oh, man. Oh, man. The thing is, though, is that sometimes I wonder whether customers actually read signs. Like, I have had like, in my store, we had, like, really big signs. Cold medicine. Pain relievers. Like, you know, aisle 13 was cold medicine. Pain relievers was aisle 14. And, like, do customers even read? Like, if you just walk in the store and you just look for a second up top, you can see all the signs. And then they ask for help. Like, do they even bother reading? The funny thing is, I'll tell you about this, Jaguar. The funniest situation that I had happen with this is that customers, the pharmacy department that we had would typically close at like 6 on Saturdays and Sundays. And customers would come in, you guessed it, after 6 on Saturdays and Sundays, and they would complain about pharmacy. They would complain to us front store, and we don't control that. We have nothing to do whatsoever with that. And the thing is, we have big signs in the store that says, like on the front door to the store, the front door right when you enter, pharmacy closes Saturday and Sunday at 6. And customers would just, regular customers that have been coming in for years, would complain about that, the pharmacy being closed. And one time, I was helping a customer, and as I was helping that customer, there was a guy that was like, I was ringing up her order, and there was a guy, he was like going like this, like to the side, like trying to talk to me, like right behind her as I was helping her for order. And he was like, why is the pharmacy closed? Like, what's going on? Well, I'm like ringing up the customer right here, and I'm like doing both. I'm scanning her items and answering her questions and talking to him. I'm like, pharmacy is closed at 6. And he's like, when's it closed? I said it closes at 6. And he's like, there's no sign. And the lady, what she did was, the lady that was ringing, I did not expect this at all. The lady turned around to that guy and said, why don't you go outside and read the goddamn sign? And oh my god, that was just rich. That was, I love that. I love that she said that to him. I didn't expect that. I was shocked, but I loved it. And his face turned red, and he walked out. That was it. I didn't see him again. But that was good. But that's it. Customers, unfortunately, some customers, they won't read the sign whatsoever. 2 guys came in, got high in the bathroom, and we had to call the county ambulance cops to convince the guys to try to get help. What, I don't understand this. At the same time too, I know people do this, but it's bad enough, getting high, but like, why do they do this in the bathroom? Like, they go to like a public, business, like a business that's open to the public, and they go to that bathroom when they know there's gonna be probably a lot of people in line to that bathroom, and they decide to do drugs there. Out of all the places, doing it there. Ugh. An old lady was walking into the store from her car. Before she could, she was run over by a large truck. A helicopter landed in the parking lot and airlifted her to the hospital. She didn't make it. Oh, man. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. Did you know this customer? Oh, man. I'm sorry, dude. I was eating cheeseburgers in the parking lot, waiting for my friend to leave. I had clocked out at about 10 p.m., and he clocked out at 11 p.m. As I'm eating and scrolling through my phone, car off, an unmarked cop car sees me and initiates a stop. My car's completely off. I'm not moving. The cop had no reason to stop me. They called backup and searched my car because I'm no criminal. They found nothing. I was let off with a warning. What? It's your store's parking lot. You have a right to be there. That's no. The police can't do that, and I can tell you right now, that's a violation right there. That is literally, the cop broke the law. That's a violation of your 4th Amendment rights. The 4th Amendment, the right to protect from illegal search and seizures. I'm assuming you're in America, but in America that's illegal, what the cop did, because 4th Amendment does not just protect you in your home, it also protects you in your car. So the police cannot just search your car when they feel like it. They can't just stop you in the parking lot when you're eating a cheeseburger and say, I want to search your car. They cannot do that. The only time that police can there's really only 3 exceptions that the police can search somebody's car. The first exception is plain view. What plain view basically is if a cop walks by a car, right, and they look in the window and they see blood, or they see drugs, or they see something else illegal in the car, they can search the car. They don't need a warrant for that. The second way that they can search the car is if there's a crime that takes place. If, like, the person in the car attacks the cop or something like that, generally the cop can search the car afterwards and find out what's going on. The third situation, the most common one, is probable cause. Probable cause was when the police have reason to believe that there's a crime taking place. But that's probably what the cop would argue. He would argue that's probable cause, but that's not probable cause. You being in the parking lot at 11 p.m., waiting for your friend to be there, eating a cheeseburger, that is not probable cause. And you could probably sue them for that. You probably could. I hope this didn't happen too late, because you actually might have gotten a lawyer involved, and you might be able to actually sue them for that. Like, I don't know all the details of the case. I don't know what the cop argued, but if you find out, like, you could call your department. You could find out exactly what cop it was that pulled you over, what day, and you might be able to get a lawsuit going. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% legal expert, so I don't know, but I'm pretty certain what that cop did was illegal. That is not probable cause, and they cannot do something like that. So they violated your constitutional rights at that point. Next one is from Evil Rolo. Back when I was working at Walmart during the pandemic, I had a woman cause a chemical pallet to topple over and cause a chemical spill because she was trying to get Lysol wipes while the pallet was still in the jack, and I was moving it to the floor to get stocked. Oh my god. And I've had customers spill stuff before, but when I've had customers spill stuff before, they never it was never like a chemical or anything like that. But customers, some customers are just so impatient that they don't ask for help. They will just go and reach right at the top, and they not even caring what's going to happen. There was this stand that we had, and I hated the stand where it was. There was this stand that sold snow globes. It was like a paper stand, that held snow globes, and it was easily toppled. Like you could literally easily topple it just like that. But to topple it, you'd have to be an idiot to topple it because you would have to literally be walking into it. But it could still easily be toppled. And when that thing falls, all the snow globes are gonna shatter. And what happened was, it's happened a few times where a stupid customer was knocked it over, being completely careless, and they would break all the glass, and they wouldn't even tell anybody that they broke it. And what would happen is there'd be glass on the floor, and somebody could step on it. And if I saw that, I would lock down the aisle really quickly, because then somebody's walking by, they could stab their foot, and then there could be a lawsuit in the store. And I had to clean up those snow globes multiple times. And I got so pissed that what I did was, I took the stand and I put it up against the wall. So I literally put up against the wall so that people could not, knock it over in the middle of the aisle, because it was like right in the middle of the aisle. And the management got mad at me for moving the stand, but I didn't care because I knew it was going to keep getting knocked down. It got knocked down twice and shattered. I knew it was going to happen again. And so that was it. But yeah, customers unfortunately are careless. And you said that she caused a chemical pallet to topple over. While the pallet was still in the jack, and was moving it, and I was moving it to the floor to get stocked. Oh man, so she could have hurt you too. Oh, oh my god. Oh man. I honestly, if it was my store, I would ask the woman, "Are you gonna clean that up? Are you gonna apologize to my worker?" But most managers don't have the guts to say that to an employee, or a customer, because they're scared the customer is gonna complain to corporate, even if they caused a mess. Next one is from Paintball Dude. I used to work at McDonald's, and one time a customer got onto the service desk and spiked hot coffee at the teenage female employee because it was made wrong. What? We also had a family bathroom with a door you could only lock from the inside, and we have several people OD, and the fire department had to break down the door every time. About the overdoses, like I said, doing drugs is already illegal and bad, but why are people doing this in, like, the bathrooms of, like, stores and food places? Like, why there, exactly? My god. And a customer spiked hot coffee at for your teenage female employee because it was made wrong. Oh my god. Oh, I really hope you caught this person, and I really hope you arrested this person. That's one of the worst things I read today. Oh my god, that's because they could have really put in. I spiked the coffee. I'm assuming it knocked her out. Did she drink it? But I hope the employee's okay. Oh my god, that's and depending on what they put in the coffee. So this is the I got a customer onto the service desk, spiked the hot coffee the teenage female employee because it was made wrong. So this was the coffee that the girl was gonna drink, if I'm getting this correct. They spiked the hot coffee at the teenage female employee because it was made wrong. So literally, they were spiking your employees' drink, and depending on what was in that drink, you could argue that was attempted murder. Depending on what was in that drink, this is one of the worst things that I read, but that's insane. I've never seen something that bad. Paintball Dude, somebody actually put something in somebody else's drink. Ooh. And from Sean Lynch, I used to work at a shop on a base, and we had this rule where sometimes rare alcohols come by, and we have the rule of 1 rare alcohol per customer. This one day, a Chinese couple came by and purchased an alcohol known as Buffalo Trace. It was rare, so it meant they can only have 1. I didn't serve them or was the register, but I saw them. A couple hours later, the wife comes back, attempting to get a second. They were somewhat bending the rule by her getting the alcohol, because her husband got it. She came to me and asked to get it. I was hesitant at first, since I recognized her, but I slowly began. Eventually, she got a call from her husband. She then spoke in Chinese, which said, "I'm trying to get a second bottle. Can you wait?" Unfortunately for her, I speak Chinese, and smirked when I heard that. I then said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you just say you're trying to get a second bottle?" She denied it, and I repeated exactly what she said in Chinese and translated. Oh, You got her good. You got her good. My boss came by and saw us arguing and asked what was going on. I told the situation and the customer went ballistic since she didn't get the second bottle, and my boss sent her on her way. I got praise for that, and to this day is my favorite retail story. Ooh. And she was speaking in Chinese, thinking that you were not gonna be able to understand that. But yeah, bending the rules right there. The craziest thing that I've seen regarding that is there was actually there was a there was a customer who she was it was a cold medicine story. I'm trying to remember the exact details of it because it just happened so long ago. But what basically happened is the girl or the mom, this girl, she came in to try to buy cold medicine, and she didn't have her ID on her. And then what ended up happening was the mom tried to buy cold medicine, and she tried to use an ID. And I don't remember. I'm trying to remember exactly what the law was that she broke, but because it's been so long. But it was it was because you were not allowed to buy that type of medication. It was like a specific type of medication. Now it was from the cold section, so you weren't. It was not like the pharmacy medication, but I'm pretty sure it was like some kind of law on that. That it was like it was implied that the mother was buying the medicine for the child, and that it was not medicine for like them at that age. That's what it was. Like this was like a teenager. So like they were not over, they were not near 18. Maybe they were like 15, 16, but they weren't 18. And the supervisor, I remember, denied it. And then what happened was the dad came in like a day later and said this is going to be a lawsuit. And that's what he was basically saying. And I could tell that he was trying to run some kind of scam. That's basically it. I could tell that he was doing this on purpose, hoping that he was going to basically get a quick buck, but nothing ever came out of it. But that's the only one that I remember specifically on that. I remember that was a scam that they were trying to do, and I don't know, it's kind of a little different in your story, but I guess it kind of reminds me of it. But yeah, somebody else coming to the store again, and you got them. You understood Chinese, and that completely threw them off. And they were talking Chinese because if they were talking in English, they were assuming that you would understand it immediately in English, but they were talking Chinese because they didn't think that you would understand it. Next one is from Vertigo VT. Several years ago, I worked at a grocery store, not naming it, and someone left bottles of piss and spat cashew nuts on plastic cherry containers. How I knew because the stench from the bottles was potent. What? What the hell? Why? That's disgusting. That's even way worse than the Red Bull guy I read about earlier, or the chocolate guy I talked about. That's disgusting. And that's bottles of piss. Why would they even do something like that? Like just leave that around the store? Ugh. Oh my god. I'm sorry you went through that, Vertigo. Ugh. And from Alex Garcia, last story that we got here. 2 years ago, I was working at the retail store Macy's. During the week leading up to Christmas, I was assigned to be at the perfume cologne section. A customer came up to me to pay for her item. But before I scanned the item, she told me if she could use a discount coupon code. I said yes, as I imagined it was one of those coupons people would get in the mail. This didn't turn out to be the case, as she took out her phone and showed me a screenshot of a code that was going to apply a 45% discount on her item. I then proceeded to type in the code so that it could be applied to her item. She was trying to buy only to get an error. Obviously, the code didn't pass, so I told her if by any chance the code expired. She then went on to tell me that the code couldn't be expired as it was still active, so I tried to type in the code again for a second time, just to make sure that the system register wasn't failing. And once again, the code didn't go through. I asked her to show me exactly where she got the code from, since her screenshot was not clear in text. That's where she then shows me she got it from one of those special deal emails you get. Well, she didn't realize that it clearly said in the email that it was an online-only time code, meaning the code couldn't be used in person in store. Despite my best efforts to explain this to her, she would get mad at me and accuse me of purposely not wanting to make the code go through. My manager had to come up and explain to her the same thing I'd already told her, but it still didn't go into her head. In the end, she ended up accusing me, my manager, and our store of false advertising and left. This whole ordeal lasted 50 minutes, and yes, she was holding up a large line. Of course, she was doing the large line on purpose, hoping that you would just do it for her. I will tell you this. I had this customer that came in, and he had an entire keychain, and the entire keychain that he had only store cards on it. And the company policy says, on the back of the store card, it says, 1 store card per household. But you had, like, a wife would have the card, the man would have the card, the child would have the card, the brother would have the card. Everybody had the card. But this guy had, like, literally an entire keychain of cards. And what he was doing is he was doing like 20 different transactions, and he would do like one transaction, and you would get rewards, for shopping. So he would do like one transaction, get like rewards for that, and then he would try to use a different transaction with a different card and get rewards, and he would just keep doing this. And I told him one card per person. Where does that? And he's like, where does that say it? And I was like, literally, I lifted up the keychain of cards. I said, right here. And the guy's wife, who was right behind him, said to me, "You're an effing idiot." She didn't say that to him. She said that to me. And they walked out. That was that was a scam that they were doing. But she was doing this on purpose. She was holding up the line. She knew that the coupon, because these Karens, they know these coupons really well. They read the ins and outs of these coupons very well, and so she knew that the coupon was online. She definitely knew. She was basically just trying to get free stuff. That's all she was trying to do, or get discount on that. I've had customers where they get an email for a coupon, right? Like a 20% off coupon. And what they would do is they would basically give me their store card. I would scan their store card, and then I would scan all of the items. And what would happen is all the items were scanned, and then they would be like, "Oh, I have this coupon also." And they would show me the email. But the email, it says you have to send the coupon to your card. There's a button, and you have to hit the button. And once you hit the button, it gets sent to your card. But once the item gets scanned and the store card gets scanned, the coupon isn't going to appear there until you cancel the transaction and rescan the card. And they knew that well. And so they would scan a bunch of stuff, hold up the line on purpose, and then they would say, "Oh, here's the coupon." And just so that you would do it so that they wouldn't complain. But I got so pissed at people scamming this, I said nope. And what I would do is I would purposely cancel the transaction. And I could tell they were annoyed because they weren't expecting that. And I was like, oh, I would take their phone. I'd be like, "Oh, you have to hit this button here, send the card." And then what I would do is I would scan the card and just scan everything again. And I could tell they were upset. They were annoyed because they were hoping to get basically 2 coupons. That's what basically they were hoping for. But it was a scam that people do. But she definitely knew there was an online-only scam, Alex. And she was online-only coupon. And she was trying to scam you. That's ultimately what it was. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that you guys like this. Do you guys like videos like this? Do you like me reacting to this? If you guys like this, I can do a video like this at near the end of April, in like 1.5 months from now. So if you guys really like this, I can do another one like this in the future. Or maybe I can do it on a different topic. It doesn't necessarily have to be reading your comments on retail. It could be reading comments on anything. I don't want to be like a react channel necessarily. This was a series that you guys recommended to me. You guys were the ones who told me I should do this. A bunch of people telling me react to your comments. But if you guys like this series a lot, let me know. Again, I will only if it is popular, I'll do it like once a month. I don't want to keep milking it. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Thank you everybody again who supported my channel. Thank you guys. I do greatly appreciate it. I wouldn't be where I am without you guys and your support, and you guys are awesome. And I also want to thank everybody who left a comment, who have read their comments on here. And I'm sorry about the nonsense that you've had to go through in retail and food and wherever else that you worked. Unfortunately, the public does not have a lot of respect for retail and food workers, and they don't understand the amount of crap that they have to go through. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.